allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you for this time that we have to talk about our accomplishments as a district and to make decisions that move the needle forward for our students and our staff. We ask for your wisdom tonight as we make decisions, and we thank you for the hedge of protection that you give us around this campus. We ask your blessings on all who walk the halls and the campuses every day, that you would extend mercy and kindness and protection to them. Keep everyone safe, and we pray for our neighbors and our friends overseas who are in the midst of conflict right now. We thank you for all that you do and your watch care over us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. And we will call our meeting to order tonight. Tonight is that one night of the year that we do several meetings because we do our annual report to the public. And so we will start with our regular board meeting, and then we'll be adjourning and restarting other meetings. So first on our agenda tonight are the consent items. The board has had opportunity to look those over and ask questions if they had any. So with no further questions, we will consider those approved by unanimous consent. And we'll move into the superintendent's update.
Begin with the elementary monthly report.
Ms. Curry, you're up first.
Okay.
Any highlights you'd like to make? They've had an opportunity to kind of review the written report. If there's anything specific that you want to note, you may, or take a question.
Yeah, we're going to have our first parental involvement meeting this week with our new parental involvement committee. We're going to go over our plan, kind of look at that. So we're meeting on Thursday of this week and going to talk about the year long for that. Several field trips going on. I would say just, our teachers are doing a really great job. Just teaching our Tier 1 instruction, really looking at data for our kids. And despite homecoming week, where we had a lot of really cool participation, they were still learning and doing lots of stuff. It wasn't really off track. So I would just say that everybody's in a really good routine and just come to work doing their job really well. So
I like your staff attendance rates.
yes, they're good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Our lowest student is kindergarten, which is kind of typical, but I mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline referrals, I can't really see it on this little
Yeah, they're small.
screen. How's the discipline issue going?
It's going pretty well. The
Percent.
last, once we get, the first few weeks of school kind of in place, and now that our, procedures and everything are down, it's been a pretty smooth few weeks. And remember, our referral system we use to track minor and major, so sometimes those numbers may look a little off because they're not only majors but they're minors also, because that's how the teachers track them in the system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then our parents they're able to see that on their side through their app. So yep, but we have school going pretty smoothly, and everybody's kind of in their routine, and construction is well underway and going well.
Perfect. Can't wait we'll get to hear more from you when we get into our
Yes.
report to the public. So thank you for that update. I know Ms. Inman is not here, but I understand
She's going to Zoom in or Google Meet with us on the report to the public. So.
Okay, so Mr. Freeman is here. If we have any questions on the middle school report, is there anything you would like to highlight that's going on in middle school?
Just that the referrals, I know we had a significant decrease in referrals last year, and that trend is continuing this year. If I remember correctly, I think our referrals for the month of September are about 40% lower than they were last September.
Okay.
Someone was saying that they do a contract or something now instead of getting in trouble. Is there some kind of contract kids sign?
Well, we have some students who are having difficulty getting along with some of their classmates, and so we have a no contact contract that some of those students sign, but there's not a general contract.
No contact contract, and we have
Just
done
something.
those before, just to keep
Just to-
kids so
It's just
they
a
have
layer
an
of a
agreement to
consequence,
not be
kind of for a
around
certain
each
period of
other.
time, like maybe, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Sometimes that's effective.
Yeah. Just puts a little, puts it out in front of the kids and says, okay, well, I signed this, makes them more aware of maybe staying away from their
And that-
antagonist.
They'll have a consequence for their action, but to prevent future consequences, we have them sign a contract saying they're going to stay away from that student for a period of time.
Okay. All right, high school. Mr. J back there in the corner.
You bet. Like, look at the little number there. It says perfect attendance. So out of those 357 kids we have, 101 of them have perfect attendance up to this point.
Good.
And that's a huge factor when we start talking about those school report cards.
Yep.
So getting our kids on site, getting them here every day is real important for us. So I asked them to kind of do a little more tracking in there. So right now we've got 204 kids with 5% or less. So any absence counts against us as a school, except for school business. So when a kid is representing us,
That doesn't count.
it doesn't count. So, but a medical absence or staying home sick or anything of that nature goes against those records for the report card. So, the other thing we've got going, I've got a long list of activities for the month. I know parent-teacher conferences get up here next week. And then we also have volleyball senior night is on the 16th, and then football on the 20th. And then kind of a shout out some of our kids there are participating in Leadership Hot Springs: Peyton Richard, Emma Riley, Ann Richards, Miranda Somm, and Nathaniel Westerman. And right now I've got one student who is going to Hot Springs National Park Rotary. So they'll go and attend, I think it's 3 meetings, and then their 4th meeting, they usually give a presentation, but I've got 3 students in a rotation coming up between now and Christmas. So we'll highlight the next one in November, or October, sorry.
Oh, wow.
Someone asked me about school business.
Well, we November for October.
And I didn't think about it until you just said something, but siblings, man, I know it goes a long ways, but like kids that, like parents that have kids in high school sports and they're going to a ball game on a Friday night, or
It would count as an absence and not school business.
for the
Take the
sibling.
The
sibling out,
sibling. So if
yeah.
they pull the sibling out and you're driving, say Subiaco, you know that you're probably gonna have to roll out there 3 o'clock if you're gonna get up there at a decent time, or 2 o'clock, whatever that may be, when we went across the state. Anytime a sibling is taken out of school,
Before
the
2
other
o'clock.
sibling that rides the bus, that's school business, the kid that's playing. But you're asking about somebody
Yeah,
that's in the
someone had asked
elementary
about
school or the
someone
middle
that said-
school.
Yeah, and I told them, I said that's.
I don't think we can code that as school business, that's
No.
coded as an absence.
But if they check out after 2, that doesn't count, does it?
No, you get counted
Yeah.
all day.
You can count it as an all-day absence if
It's
you
all day,
check out?
actually, or not all day,
Well,
but for that period.
You know, class period for.
Oh,
Class
okay.
period.
Yeah, and that's how it fits into their matrix of. So
Okay,
for elementary, it looks a little different because of the full day, half day.
okay.
But in 5th grade and above, you've got class periods in there that you're gonna,
And they count absences based on the number of class periods that were missed.
Like in high school or just middle school, you can't check out, like at the end of the day, it's like, if you check out 10 minutes early or something,
Right.
it's the whole class, right?
yeah, just that one class period. We mark them as, instead of being tardy, they're absent.
Yeah. Okay. That clears it up.
The only other thing on attendance on that topic, if you go back up, that 80 kids that have exceeded 10% absenteeism is really that group in each building that we're trying to monitor, because that ends up defining on that threshold of 10% absenteeism on the year, on 178 days, they're going to be approaching 20 days of absence. And so with that, they would be defined as chronically absent, and you don't get to have your perfect attendance offset chronic absenteeism. So chronic
Right.
absenteeism will count against you, and those are really, that's the piece that we've got to move that needle up. We want every kid to be here every day, all day, but it's that excessive absenteeism that really negatively affects the grade quality.
But those 82 students who have had 10% or more, that doesn't mean they have missed 10% of the school days in total, right?
Yes, it
They could have
does.
just,
Out of 45 days, they've missed 4 days or more at this point.
whole days,
Yes.
not just,
Yeah,
A period.
for us, it's just gonna run an absentee report, so we're looking at just the numbers. So it could be just 2 classes.
One period.
Could
I
be
mean-
a period.
Correct.
that's information that's useful to know though. If
Correct.
you've got kids that have missed 5 days of school, or kids that have missed
A period there.
7th period or whatever,
Correct.
5 times.
Right.
The seventh period could be their English class, and they have missed English 5 days.
Well, and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just a bigger deal to me if they've missed 5 complete days, where they've
But if
missed.
they're choosing to
everything.
sleep in, that's bad too.
It is.
That- If
I'm not
they're choosing
excusing
not
it.
to be here first and
Right.
second
I
period.
agree 100%.
No, I'm not.
then
English
That's
is
just as
first
bad as missing
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah, I just wondered for my clarification, was that whole days or some part of each day? One more question before we leave yours. In your building goals, so I know Atlas is the new test that we're going
Correct.
to take that replaces the ACT Aspire. Do you know much about it yet? I mean, you're saying you're preparing them for Atlas, so do you have some?
There are some tools that we can see sample exemplars of questions at this point.
Okay,
Now, science is also supposed to be ready to do interims, so they're beginning to look at those interims so that we can provide those for our students. The rest of the content, whether it's English and math, wasn't ready at the beginning of school.
okay. I just wondered, that's first, I know
So-
that's brand new stuff.
Correct. Of course,
So,
everybody
You
who
have the
writes on that
standards.
committee.
yes,
So, he's got exemplars and access to the standards, and teachers are reviewing those standards.
yes.
But they're also trying to figure out how or what those questions are that are coming out our way, so we know how to ask the same style question.
Because, am I correct in stating that, yes, we have the state standards, but there are so many standards that you kind of pick and choose which ones you're teaching more specifically, right? And will that align to the standards that are going to be tested?
That we don't know.
Without seeing the
Yeah.
test, you won't know.
Yeah, okay. Just
But,
wondering.
but the one thing that in the conversations with the principals that we also add is we do believe there's gonna be an ongoing, we don't think that this test will be more about, it'll be about application and comprehension. So the rigor on this test will not be, we don't anticipate any less than ACT Aspire. Versus the content, maybe an assessment you might have had at one point that was more about retention of knowledge. This still has a pretty high degree of comprehension and application.
Good. I'm all for that. So before we move on, I know Ms. Mushross doesn't have a specific segment in here because she handles parts of each building, but I want to just give you an opportunity. Is there anything you wanted to update us on from your department or anything
No,
y'all
our
got
numbers are
going
kind of
on?
leveled out. We haven't had as many more move-ins, so we're kind of, the dust is settling.
Okay, good. And that is a lot to be thankful for, right? Good. And how are discipline issues within your,
Knock on wood, they're good. We haven't had, but maybe one.
okay, good, very good. Okay, well, thank you all for those updates, and we will look forward to hearing more at our open report to the public. So, our financial review, let's look at our year-to-date summary, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Kind of see where we go from there, what's occurred within each month. you've had a chance to look at it. The only thing that I can tell you that received today, notification from ADE that, and I'm going to learn a little bit more before I give you a finality on it, that they're indicating that we can no longer keep any allotted funds in Fund 8 that would exceed 3 months worth of expenses. So and that's a restricted fund related to food service.
Yes.
And so there's only certain allowable expenses within the food service area, so I'm gonna work with Hayden. We definitely know that we've got a freezer that we've been leasing, we're gonna be putting a new freezer in, but I'm gonna have to provide a written overview to the State Department on how that balance probably should not exceed $200,000 on an annual basis is what they've given us as a target versus the current balances you see. So that's something that we've not seen in the past.
I know, I'm surprised they're even having to make a rule about that now.
So you
But
know,
you're kind of hand-tied.
it's there's only certain allowable expenditures.
Right.
So you know, I've
We
got
can't
to
reduce
You
the
can't.
cost, we can't reduce because of federal guidelines won't let us reduce the cost of meals
And
to
that money,
students.
and you can't,
Correct.
because it's a restricted fund, you can't move the money.
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm just,
Well, we
just
can do some
sharing with
capital
you in terms
improvements
of
or-
that we can make some capital improvements, and in time, the allocation of personnel
Yes,
specifically related to food service.
yes.
If you recall, we're managing that account with a smaller footprint than we did with our prior director.
Yeah.
So that's an allowable expenditure as well.
Yes.
Do our teachers have duty-free lunches, or are they supervising students at this time?
Well, they have
You could always have personnel for lunch supervision. I mean.
I don't know if that would be an allowable expenditure or not.
I don't know, it's in food service. Food service, that's where I'm going. I'll let you work with this, I'm sorry.
My bookkeeper at this point would be scratching, 1/8 of the overall day of an individual full-time equivalent.
Teen's liable to come in here and just back door
I
open
don't know,
right now.
I'm just trying to find ways to.
To spend.
To spend money.
Yeah, we might be able to spend
Well,
some funds there if it's allowable. But
If
I
it's
just wanted to
allowable.
make you aware of that.
yes,
Other
and y'all will
than
have some
that,
ideas.
You might put notice to kind of where you're at with Fund 3, Hayden is going to discuss some capital improvements. We basically have $500,000 in that account. And then, of course, how we're running, based on how we opened, everything else seems to be running within the approved budget.
Okay. All right. Enrollment projections.
I thought this was a
That
good
interesting.
piece of information for you to have, just to
Yeah.
kind of see. Now, this is strictly from the state, based on current cohort groups, live data analysis, and it gives futuristic projections. Now, from their perspective, they're looking at the state as a whole. They're not going to take into consideration number of new rooftops, new construction. Oh, we opened a bypass. None of that is a part of the state enrollment projections. But what this would tell you, in the absence of a bypass, you have a relatively consistent long-term enrollment without a significant spike in the enrollment or a significant decline within the enrollment. And this is a place where I would tell you a little bit about, you've had these conversations around enrollment, and so in a snapshot, the district is down, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but in the enrolling kindergarten grade to the graduating class of last May, there was a difference of roughly what we felt was 30 plus students. It'd be over 30. In the overall enrollment counts this year in the sophomore class and junior class, we're roughly down about another 50 students, 25 per grade, in terms of what we had year over year, accounting for roughly 80 of the overall students that would be reducing us from the 1,300 range down to the lower part of the 1,200 range. So we've at least identified where those pockets are. We have not truly identified where each and every one of those students have gone. I talked to you a little bit last month about the county trend of enrollment and what we've seen in Garland County since 2018. But I did want to go get you a piece of information that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education provides to each district. And so I wanted to give that to you so we'd have that available for your review, because it does not only look historically back, it tries to project forward
Right.
an additional 10 years. So any comments or questions on that? Here
No, and
again,
it doesn't include pre-K. So to look at our actual on-campus population, you'd add another 60, right?
well,
Roughly
right now,
50.
Mrs. Curry, you told me that we're not full, we don't have a wait list, so we've roughly got, what did you say, 47 in our program? Is that what you told me
Pre-K?
the other day?
Yeah.
Yes.
47?
Uh-huh.
Or we can
We got
hold
room for
60.
60,
Yeah,
but at this point in time, we have 47 in our pre-K program.
okay.
Uh,
So
we-
are they divided over 2 classes or?
Three.
3.
Okay.
I do believe that, you know, there is, with LEARNS, there's a philosophical discussion around how you choose education going on within the parent realm at this point in time. Does that mean that they're choosing other alternatives? Not necessarily, but I think there is a discussion going on as it relates to what's the best educational options for my child, because it was promoted so heavily during the legislative session
Yeah.
about the empowerment component. And I think it is having a, I wouldn't say significant, but I would say a little more than a minimal impact to the overall enrollment trend. It is having an impact.
All right.
Mr. Campbell, anything you would add based on, you and I have had several discussions on this topic?
No, just that it's troubling, but at the same time, you don't know what might come as a result of the bypass opening or folks moving out here. And you know, we don't actively recruit for school choice because
Correct.
there aren't dollars
Right.
attached to that. So when our neighboring districts are playing their radio jingles to encourage folks to choose them, our folks are hearing those radio jingles, and
Right.
they're not hearing radio jingles from us. So we're not stopping anyone. No one's being discouraged from choicing out.
Right.
No one's being encouraged to choice in.
But our overall numbers is relatively flat to where this year, when you and I analyzed it, that the choice out versus the choice in, there was a slightly, like it was a 10 plus out versus
Out.
what was coming in. So when you look at the
There's
grand
10 more.
scheme of impact,
Yeah.
it was
Still-
almost neutral.
Yeah.
So if that's 10 more, that's 10%
Yeah.
of what we're down.
Correct.
But those students don't generate a lot of state aid either.
No.
That's what he's kind of alluding to in
Yeah, right.
relationship
So
to state aid.
We're not getting state aid, so.
Right.
But that may be, you know, that's always something that you could put back into the strategy. It's just not been a component. When we experienced space constraints that we had, it did not make sense that if we could not build additional facilities for our students, why would we want to recruit more students into facilities that were full?
Right.
And so our rationale at that time was to put a pause in the advertising element until we could identify what our spring, and right now, with us doing lunch the way we did it, splitting the lunch, creating the outdoor eating area, we've been able to accommodate the food service component. And so we've kind of problem solved that piece and been able to get our kids into the appropriate buildings based on their grade levels. So those tasks and objectives have been accomplished in this 1,200 range. To be very honest with you, our kids fit into our facilities at 1,200 much better than they do 1,400.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
As far as our facility space.
Right. It's just something to watch because, you know, you lose over the course of 5 years, let's say, you lose, you know, even conservatively 20 kids a year. 5 years, then,
300
you know,
kids.
Yeah. You know, it's just something to watch because you have to redesign your strategy, like you said.
Well,
If you just keep losing, you've got to either try to find ways to increase it or whatever. So it's an interesting thing to stay aware of. All right, let's move to the academic achievement goal.
So I've tried to rewrite this in the context. I've visited at length with the principals. This is, I've had some individual conversations centered around trying to, if you will, monitor and accurately assess not only how our students are doing, but ensure that as you remember, back in August and July, we were talking about making sure that every child receives a guaranteed viable curriculum at grade level and not allow for this pandemic that suppressed student abilities. We've still got to teach on grade level. So we have taken and really expanded upon for the board's review with the embracement of a goal of this magnitude. I would tell you that in the action steps, it's providing you the relevance of probably 80% of what we're already doing. It's a reflection of a lot of the current work that we have. The outcomes that we would be seeking is one, getting on paper our current work in a broader sense other than all students would read at grade level. And build out a much stronger foundational academic goal. And so within the frameworks of this academic goal, in its simplicity, we would teach at grade level and make sure that the assessments at grade level were reflected of the grades given at grade level. And so the report card comes into this, in which one of the action strategies down in item, I think, 2, evaluate current practice and establish systems in the middle school and the high school to ensure that the individual student report card reflects the grades based on a balance of the practice and compliance with greater percentages of the overall grade on mastery. What does all of that mean? It means that a student would demonstrate a skill, and the demonstration of knowing the application of that skill should exceed some guided practice work. And it kind of, for each of you, takes you back to a point in time where you may have been sitting in a class and tests were graded more heavily than practice.
Yes.
And so as an outcome of the work, we would evaluate, which means we would take off. Right now in K through 4, we're standards based. And so it becomes pretty clear what the student, the skills that they demonstrate that they can do, and the ones that they may not be able to do. When we hit 5th grade up through 12th grade, the general public and the community will want a grade. When I say a grade, they want it to be an A, B, C, D. Most of them prefer it to be an A. And so in that context, making sure that the grade is reflective of ability is what we're seeing
Yes.
there. When you look at other areas, and I would tell you that when you're looking at the vertical teaming, we've set aside 1 day a month, and so some of this work gives purpose and individual reflection for the group that's working on math, the group that's working on English, whether that is science. So we've got all groups divided up, and one of the early releases within the month is focusing on, 1, the identification of the resources, and 2, are there any gaps from grade level to grade level? Kind of you mentioned standards and the magnitude of standards, but if we find that we're always choosing to not teach a specific standards and we do that 3 years in a row, then you've created a pretty significant gap, because that's at standards, it's chosen not to be taught. We called them at one point in time power standards. And so our teachers are looking at and making sure that there's a scope and sequence in the curriculum to identify any gaps and make sure those gaps are worked through, and that's action item number 3. And looking and visiting with our principals on this topic, the comment was a lot of this work is in motion. The intentionality of this being a district goal is to give us the latitude to have a document that we can gravitate to, reflect on, and return to determine what progress we're making. Here again, if we're intentionally outcome driven with the intention of increasing individual student scores, which in return increases weighted achievement scores, which in turn changes school report cards. If all of that's in alignment, we feel like this is something that the board should reflect on, because when those harder conversations begin to occur, we're all agreeing to the same expectation.
Absolutely. 100%.
So I felt like this would be something that could further gain traction from the governance structure level, down to the building level, down to the teacher level, to an individual student conversation between a student and a teacher, or a conversation between a teacher and a parent when it comes to, and we'll never design what I would ever say a perfect system, but I think without framing the expectation, there's less likelihood that it would occur. So we're trying to frame the expectation and the outcome to drive a different result.
Yes. And, you know, back to that grade thing, I'm absolutely a proponent of a student earns an A, they get an A. If they don't earn an A, they don't get an A. And I know that we don't have a huge problem with grade inflation, but, you know, there are other schools that have bigger problems with that. But we do our students a disservice
If we choose to do
by
that.
not giving them what they earn. Because if I'm a C student and I'm getting all A's on my report card, I think I'm doing a fabulous job and I must be one of the smart kids.
So we're wanting to create
Not
that
that,
reflection,
you
but
know,
the thing
we
that
just-
I totally agree with you, until we evaluate current practice, I want to have a moment of where we pause and allow our principals to work with our teachers so we can evaluate that current practice and ensure that kind of what we bring to you is what we discovered. And what we discovered is X, Y, Z, and then based on what we discovered, we want to create ABC.
And it's gotta be like, elementary's a little bit different, maybe not so much, but middle school and high school, I mean, they gotta communicate, and they gotta be on the same, like if one's grading one way, or, you know, no leniency in the.
One subject.
In
or-
8th grade, and when you get to 9th grade,
Totally different.
totally different. Or you get no
Has to be
leniency.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we're looking for,
Yes.
Corey, is to identify with and try to frame for teachers some parameters, so that we all have an agreed upon set of parameters that this is kind of how the weight falls out between the test and guided practice and the bell ringer. And I think it will still allow for some individual autonomy in the classroom of a teacher, but I think we need to frame a greater consistent expectation of what the grading system is providing, and make sure that that is well announced in the inception of the
Beginning of the
year
year.
versus during the grading period.
Yeah.
So take a look at this. The intentionality of this work would be to try to put this into motion at the district level as a component, and it gives our principals, once agreed upon at a board level, it gives our principals the ability to be reflective of the governance structure to the building level, being in agreement upon this, but it's not, you know, it could be something that we begin to design within the evaluative process, is what I would be thinking of, to strengthen, you know, the goals that are in this role have typically been around an academic prong, a safety, a
Yeah.
communication, and fiscal management. And so this really takes this academic piece to a different level.
Right, which is what we need.
Right.
Yeah, and Lloyd
Based
has
on our
a,
discussions.
Lloyd has a question.
I applaud what you've done here. Looking at action step 5. We're going to use the year-end testing performance to develop our individual education plan for each student. But over the summer, there's going to, of course, be regression. Isn't that a little bit late for that action? Because that's where I feel like some kid could drop through the cracks, going from elementary to middle to high school.
So,
There needs to-
I'll give you an example of what
Okay,
kind of
please do,
occurred in
because
middle
I
school.
like what you've done here.
So in the middle school currently, we initially, in our response to intervention, we looked at that snapshot of that summit from the prior year. But because of regression and because it was a snapshot, they actually gave them a pretest along with this. So if they were in needs of support, it triggered them, but they went ahead and did a pretest with everyone.
Okay.
When the school year began, because of the learning loss within the summer. You can't just assume that because they were there that they still retained it.
Right.
And then once they were good there, they were either dismissed or they were provided individual support either in reading or in math.
And that's where
Or both.
And that's where our
That's your
RTI.
RTI. And
RTI
we've
comes
we've had some serious conversations around, do we want to use response to intervention as the term, or do most of our parents understand that in-school tutoring means more than response to intervention?
Yes.
And we're inclined to think that naming it in-school tutoring would be more for our parents to have a better understanding of what that means. Oftentimes, intervention is one step away from either a diagnosis or a referral to special education, and the intention behind this is to support an individual student to get them back on grade level.
Okay, thank you. I'll just,
But we're really thinking about terminology,
Good.
because in the world of what we're thinking, if we can't onboard our parents and our community into this process, it's very, very difficult without their support for us to take rigor to a new level.
I agree. It has to be spoken in plain English.
Yes.
thank you.
Yep. But I like the work y'all done. So I'm very appreciative that y'all put some thought into this, and, you know, this will be a working document that we'll evaluate and.
And this is, you know, I've challenged Mr. Campbell, the inception of this work, kind of as we opened the year and we knew what we were facing with learns and what the challenges were associated with that, and the importance of accurately reflecting ability based on what we have as a grade. This has been, I would say, evolving from the original view of the bullets to then following our action steps,
Yeah.
and then formulating not only a plan for action, but a plan also for reflection. And I applaud the work that's been done by him in coordination with me, and then the support of the principals in this work.
Yeah.
So
Good.
that's where it's at this point. My intention would be to hopefully formally adopt it with the board moving into next month based on some feedback from the board and additional feedback from the principals.
Yes.
And it does create what I told them, a very defined roadmap. And I think a roadmap at this point in time is a critical element for us progressing forward with the challenges of learns, and for the work that our administration has done. And, you know, over the past few years, this kind of builds on that roadmap and kind of takes it to a new level.
Good. I like it. And we'll continue to look over it and
Yes.
ask questions and hopefully be ready in a month or so to adopt it. Any other questions, board members? If not, we're going to move over to Hayden, the capital improvements list. See a lot of green on it.
Yeah, we've come a long way since even from last board meeting, a lot of items, even from items 14 and down, all pretty much all knocked off. Let's see, I'm gonna start with LED sign. We approved that last board meeting. That is, has been ordered. We're hoping to see it here on campus before January. So that's kind of the timeline that we're hoping it arrives. We don't think we'll have to do any electrical work other than move the electrical. Once we do decide to move the sign, the same sign does take the same 220 amp breakers that we currently have. So electrical's fine for them to move it out, put a junction box. So cost will be minimal on moving it. If you want to go and click on, well, I'm going to mention on the school buses. We've had about 3 buses down from the start of the school year. Between getting those back from Central States, rotating our spares in, we just went through a bus inspection as well, so we hope to send our first bus off this month.
Good.
On this.
Yes. I have to zoom in too. Maybe I'll sit and drive on this one. Maybe easier if I sit and drive on this one. All right, so this is our football field, weight room, field house, FCA room. You know, we mentioned in the past, we did a board walkthrough a few months back. I think just Dana and maybe Corey, I think we're on that walkthrough. I think it was for SSC or something. That's what we were doing.
Yeah.
So we kind of highlighted this area as a need. You know, before I kind of get into this, I will say we are dealing with a infrastructure up there that is very, very dated. And a lot of this is residential infrastructure.
Yes.
So we got to remember, you know, if we just start to add plumbing, adding toilets, urinals, ADA urinals, you know, that existing residential plumbing is not going to cut it. We already struggle with pressure, volume currently right now. We have a pressure pump up there just to help get us by.
Right.
A lot of electrical has been add-ons in the past 15 to 20 years, and a lot of it's old Romex, which is you find in homes only, you know, not even, you know, up to today's code for NC standards and things like that. So, so I'm just putting that out there first.
Now, with all that being said,
Yes.
what can we do to make this better?
I just want to get this is a full turnkey package. This is not just one thing. It's just if we want to do this, we're going to have to, you know, address the infrastructure while we're doing it. Make all this successful. So over here to my right is our current weight room. You know, we first kind of started this off as just addressing and complementing the current weight room, the changes we've done, the formats back, you know, 6-7 years ago, the new weight equipment. Just the utilization of that facility itself has tremendously changed. When we added HVAC, insulation, it's grown even more. So we started looking at how can we access bathrooms, changing rooms, ADA, accessibility at that same time. So weight rooms here, you know, we have 2 doors. This green area is where the referees change out. And we do have some females that do change throughout the day.
Use that area.
Yeah. Purple area is the current FCA room. So I'm going to start off with this bathroom here. I do have another overlay that I did not include tonight, which I can send you separate. It does have red overlays of current infrastructure versus what is new. So I can't send that.
Okay.
So we'd be getting this first area, which is connected to the weight room, and you would have access from the FCA room. So in the FCA room, there's a current closet right there. That closet would be pretty much coming out, relocating the closet for more storage down this far north end, and out getting access to the bathrooms, restrooms, ADA as well. These are individual showers. So if you are working out, if you're a coach, you'd have the access to these 3 showers. And of course, the back one, ADA accessible. We do have 3 renderings total that kind of shuffle this ADA bathroom, and kind of once we get close to be finalized, we can make more of a final decision. But just being that exterior wall, bigger footprint, it'll make the most sense for the ADA to be right there. coming over to this side, and of course, this all current residential plumbing. So you're talking about jackhammer concrete out, getting minimum of a 1-inch pipe to the back of all these stalls, things like that.
So that red door, just so you can visualize for those that see how that red door could potentially remain closed and keyed for the coach, because this middle corridor could be oriented for female usage only.
Correct.
Or it could be opened up as a pass-through to get from the weight room back into the locker room and without going outside the building. Currently, anything to get anywhere, you go outside.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be what I would add there. And then go ahead and proceed and talk a little bit about the new egress from the backside of the facility as well.
So this exterior door is on the back side of the weight room. If you're coming up to the north entrance from the football field now, if you hang that immediate left, you go behind the old ticket booth, behind the concession stand, it'll gain you access to this door. So this could be a door that we could utilize, let me back out here just a little bit, where you could have some coaching parking over here along the tree line. Here's the concession stand here, so here's your gate going across. You have a little small fence right here and that jets out. Over here is the entrance to the football field coming in the north way. So this could be additional parking that we could pick up for some of our coaches, and they would egress in and out of this rear entrance. And goal is we're keeping that main gate closed at all times.
Right.
So that main front gate, or kind of going into this school year, I've seen it unlocked, just very little, really. We've done a good job, coaches have done a good job keeping that gate locked just to prevent vehicle traffic into that area and limiting access to where they can't get on the field.
They walk through the ticket booth gate down.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
how they get around to the front side.
Before I move on past this weight room side, we would reuse current HVAC for this area. We feel very comfortable with reusing it in that location. Coach's office stays the same. We're not making any changes to the coach's office.
Okay.
Going to the locker room. And the back side, I'll start from the back and I'll work my way forward. This is another one of 3 proposals. We picked, I think this was option 3, between Dr. Murphy, myself, and Helen Cox. We felt this made the most sense for the current space.
And did have discussions, we got some input from the coaches as well.
Correct.
Coach Carter, other coaches, along with
Right.
us.
So if you're walking into the current shower area, current dryer, washer area, currently you have your washers. We have one washer and one dryer. They're stacked side by side. They've been out this back wall. And then right next to that, there's a storage closet. So immediately when you walk in, you would have 3 sinks, commercial plumbing, commercial sinks, immediate access to an ADA bathroom, stalls along the back side. And then on the west side, we would have showers, ADA shower. This would be kind of a catch-all. We could put a table in here, use it as a tape room for taping up ankles, whatever may be going on during the game, before or after. This whole space really needs the AC reworked. The good thing is where we can save some money is we just replaced that unit this summer. We put a new 5-ton in there. So just a matter of relocating both returns, adding probably an additional return back here in the shower space, because currently that ventilation is almost none. Very humid, hard to breathe. So we would save a little bit of money reutilizing that current 5-ton we just got through putting in.
So you'd be doing ductwork.
We'd be doing ductwork.
A lot of it.
Yeah, one thing we are concerned about is the height of the ceiling here, because this was an addition at some point. We're going from an 8-foot ceiling in this area down to, I want to say a 9.5-foot ceiling in here, down to barely a 7 in this area. So just popping the ceiling, seeing what's up there. Can we get ducting in there? Can we have enough room for a return and get that humidity out? Or some of our thoughts. This is just potential new lockers. You know, we currently have this peninsula that kind of sticks out. You know, we've talked about locker space. Do we have enough lockers? Coaches say, yes, we do. We're trying to keep the future in mind. This would be an add-on. It may not be in the full bid. Currently, we always come back and add that on.
I would make a comment here, just for the board and anyone listening, that area is it's a locker room. That's every locker 7 through 12. So there's not any other place for kids to go to as far as any locker area other than that. So that's where anyone playing, that's where they're at. Just wanted to make that.
One of the biggest things.
Boys.
Yes, no girl
Yeah,
lockers
there's,
there in
yeah,
that
there's
room.
no, they have to go.
They go over here to the other locker room and change over here in this other designated.
And they have
female
lockers
area.
over there? No.
There is
There's
a
some-
back area where it doesn't look the
some-
same in terms of a locker, but it's some of our
I
own
don't know if there's in there or not. You go in there, don't you?
It's like a
Yeah.
wooden
Yeah, there's some
cabinet.
I think they have a locker in the
Cabinet.
Yeah.
It's the old lockers from the basketball gym.
Right.
Those wooden.
We have some of those in there.
Okay.
They could put things in there. And it's in that area where those restrooms are at and where the sink's at. It's back in the back
But
part.
there's also lockers in the.
But there's a
bass
female
gym
football
division.
player, she may have
A locker in the other area.
there. I mean, I don't
Does
know,
she?
but I don't know.
Sure.
Well, I've seen the cleats and the helmet and some of the things associated with that player in that other area, because I asked.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to distract.
You're just fine.
Good question.
One of the things I would highlight out of all of this, that's probably one of the most needed things, is simply a washer and dryer. You know, how we currently wash, dry, how long that takes. We were talking to the coaches. When they start washing at X time, and that washer and dryer are running all day long.
Well, I know I went in there Saturday, used the bathroom, and had to start the dryer over because all the clothes were still wet.
Right.
So is there more than one washer and dryer?
No, that's
I'm talking about.
No, I think
Oh,
this
yes,
setup
yes.
would allow 2 and 2.
Correct.
To
Yeah.
commercial size?
Correct,
Yes.
commercial
Yes.
size.
I think they've got commercial.
It is, the
It
stuff
is
we have up
commercial.
there is commercial, but it's just not sufficient.
Right.
The other thing you kind of get with that we liked in our discussion with the coaches and everyone is we keep the laundry separate from the restaurant, period.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do have a doorway, or you could put a half door there, so we could kind of get that laundry, those jerseys and those things, at least into the designated area, where you could do a drop bin or something like that, and then get it in close proximity to the wash. Those were things that we got really good positive feedback from the coaches as far as the space was concerned, kind of repurposing that current room that's over there. There's kind of
Yeah.
a double door going into that room, back into that area now, with jerseys hung up in there and some other
I was gonna
things.
say, so where will all that, like, where's our storage gonna be if we're taking that?
Some of that then transitions out to the bigger area, the big building that's beside the weight room. Because you
Oh,
don't have
sure.
any other, that's where the whole storage piece starts you know, you have to start rethinking storage. That's some of the, you know, we've tried to take things out of that building and put them out there in those containers. Anything that we could put into a container that could go in a space like that, we pulled that out of that building that's down there on the end next to the weight room. So,
And we
storage is a
have-
premium.
Right.
Okay.
And we would have 2 storage areas, you know, this one right here, I'm in the FCA room right now, you know, current storage, quote, storage closet is right there, very tiny. So we would have this small addition too, that may be more for the coaches items. I don't, you know, really see that for any playing equipment. Back over here in the washer and dryer room, this image does look small. If you're in that room itself, you know, we'd have enough room for 3 shelves. And we got, you know, bins, labeled bins, you know, whatever it may be, pull it out, so your stuff in. So we would have shelving wrapping around that room as well.
And we are looking at the possibility of, for senior high, putting those, if you've been to some locations, I don't know if you've looked at a lot of them, but they have small numbered cubbies that are passed through. And so you could take those things, that jersey and those other items, and put them back into those individual cubbies and do that for senior high, because some of the facility tours that I took initially with Coach Davis, we saw that in different locations as well, which that helps you manage all the jerseys and the gear, quite frankly, and then, you know, it makes it much easier for an individual to pick up what's their stuff. So, looking at a lot of different options, it'll boil down to price point and what we can afford to do, but what we're trying to convey to you here this evening is we feel like the plan would definitely enhance the cleanliness of the area and the functionality of the area, and also we believe potentially help us with the overall supervision of the area.
And it's very dated. We've got lots of the rest of the campus looks really good, and then somebody goes in there and it looks like you just stepped back into the
3 stores.
60s.
We got some,
Yeah.
like 3 storage trailers up there,
Right.
Mhm.
different storage deals.
Right.
Yeah. And again, last thing I'll leave it with is just, both those bathroom areas, again, if you're jackhammering the concrete out.
We got you. We just give us a price.
So, I mean, everybody-
We know what you're being.
He's warning
Your
us.
50% of the cost is gonna be utilities, just,
Yes.
I'm serious.
Quit throwing up. On that too, I mean, if we moved all that stuff out of that one building, all the jerseys and stuff, we couldn't just stick them out, somewhere where it's not climatized. So,
Right.
I mean, it'd have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's what we were kicking around, whether we have to take that space over there, put a mini split in it.
Like
we
that
did
one
with
was like
Flickr.
17 foot, that storage, the storage.
The
In the
one
FCA
in
is
the
like
FCA
17
room,
foot,
it's a
so-
pretty good size.
I mean,
Right.
Down, right.
And if you notice that room, the functionality of that room, because it's so long and narrow, we thought we might have better storage out of, and we don't know purposefully what that storage ends up being, but we do think that we could still have the TV against that internal wall there and still be able to do all the functions they currently have in that space and still probably seat everyone, and make the room a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I think so.
And then it kind of gives us, and some of that feedback kind of came through the architect Hill Cox and the
Right.
walkthroughs. And we've had, 2 or 3 different meetings, and we've been with Coach Carter. So we spent
Yeah.
quite a bit of time discussing
Has
to
Coach
get to
Shelton
this
looked at
render.
this?
Yes.
he's had input.
One thing this is not addressed, and it could be an addendum or an add-on, and we decided that if we do approve this, is the exterior. So looking at the exterior, all the dents, dings, this does not include any, nice ufus or stucco. Would be one way to address it
Like
on
the
the
one we just
outside.
painted.
Yes, one we just painted, where all the dents and dings are in it. So we could go up, 4 foot and do some brick, just address the whole area. So that does not include dressing at the front at all.
Exterior, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that where we're at currently, if we could address the interior, then you could, as a secondary project at some point, come back and tackle. I don't know that you get a true cost gain on interior, exterior work combined into one project, other than kind of the construction management cost, you might save a tad.
Right.
But it's a different type of contract.
Correct.
Okay. So I know you've got some other things on capital improvement. I know none of it's new business tonight, but can you just quickly, you've got a quote now for the Bass Gym?
We've had
Weight
that
room?
one for a while, and kind of what we would do, when we're working with Hill and Cox, we would want to make that a project where we do both at the same time.
Okay. That
So we would
make
have that
sense.
included on that final bid.
All right.
Is there anything like the concession stand? Does it need anything while we're up there?
It could use some
Power.
HVAC.
Power, evaluating power and the amount of amperage in the space, oftentimes there's certain things they can't, if they buy a certain machine, they can't use all of it. So I think if you were gonna look at concessions, you're not gonna be able to change a concession space because it's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think you could evaluate
Their power
access to power if you're up there with an electrician. That would be
Yeah.
something I've heard over time
Yeah.
during the time I've been here, where we are constrained based on, they want to sell this and this machine blowing the, kicks
Right.
breaker.
Yeah, and just on the infrastructure, that's something we could address. We do have an open conduit going between that little power shed and that building. The whole facility is run off as a 200 amp, pretty much a home style service. So really needs to be close to more to 400 to do everything we need. So yeah, we're very constrained on power.
Power is a big issue.
Yeah, but you got 3 phases. I mean, there's
That whole
room
thing
to-
up there's 200 in
the whole thing. Yeah, so when we start these projects, you know, with many splits adding to the weight room and everything, so we gotta be very mindful.
Right.
You know, LED lighting,
But that-
do the best we can.
That gives you an idea of the type of things we're putting in there that are quite frankly pretty energy efficient.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you're getting away with that so
Yeah,
far.
that's right.
I mean, that's
Okay.
pretty surprising.
Only other thing on this screen, I'll have to mention on the student parking lot LED lighting. I let Dr. Murphy know last week I did get a call from Kristen from RDOT, and we hope to have that right away turned back over to us.
Okay.
They called, of course, asking how much, you know, what the bill would be. We had to pay for anything, buy that right away back. I kind of went through the whole OA wind spill with them, and we purchased that property, we lowered it for them. So
Yeah.
in her mind, she thinks that it'll be a wash, and we don't know anything. She's got to talk to right away. We were scheduled to meet tomorrow, but it got pushed to Friday, so I'm hoping that meeting goes
Okay.
well.
Good,
Yeah.
good. All right, let's look at our SSC contract amendment. Looks like we're adding a person.
Yes, and tonight's one of the resignations, we will have an employee retiring. So this would be adding a nighttime custodial addition to our contract. We can look at item number 2.
Okay,
Very
wait.
odd.
If we have somebody retiring, why is this a new person? I mean,
This action.
No,
Why is
no,
this
that-
new money?
The person was employed by the district,
okay,
and so
Yeah, it
they're
was our
no longer
last,
gonna
yeah.
employ the
Okay.
They're
district,
gonna take.
and they're gonna
okay,
take
they're
over
gonna
the
take over the
position.
position.
Correct.
So is
Yeah.
this a 178-day contract?
I don't know, I'm trying to think what SSC and how they do theirs. I don't think it's 178
It
days.
says,
So that says
Well, it says
effective
it's
July,
starting-
it says
starting
effective
July
July
1st.
1st, which wouldn't be right.
Right.
Okay. That'll be it, then when we get that corrected.
Because that would be I mean, that's 4 months of
Right.
getting payment.
yeah, that's going back.
Whereas client, I think it's
Well, that's when we
it's saying
enter
that we
the
enter into their
contract,
current
which
new
is
contract.
Well, but think about that. That was July of 22, and this is saying
November 1.
amended by Amendment 1 on June
Right.
1st, 23, and amended by Amendment 2. And this is a new one, amendment dated November 1st,
Right.
So
23. I think
so
they're
we
going
don't
back
get
to the
too
original.
confused in the amendments, if you recall, we added the position that was helping clean the exterior
Mhm.
Football
of the
field.
facility at the
That
football
was the
field.
last
That was one of
amendment.
the amendments.
Right.
This amendment is directly associated with taking a person that's on our payroll, and they would hire an employee through SSC, and it would be managed in that regard, and so then we would be fully, I don't think we'd have
No, I
anyone
think that's
else
the last
that
one.
that we would have on our janitorial staff that we would be paying
Correct.
payroll and benefits on.
Right.
And it
Right,
does
but it
say-
wouldn't be July 1.
No,
It'd
no,
be
no,
November
but read
1.
back up, go to the top of the document, Mr. Campbell.
I see, it says.
It's above witnesseth, there you go, this amendment 3, effective as of November 1st, 2023.
Right?
So it goes back and it states that the client entered into an agreement with the contractor back on July 1st, 22.
Right?
And this is amendment number 3 being made to that. So
Amendment
they
1
go,
was on July 1st,
yes,
amendment 2 was on June,
they were
or
both
June
June
1st.
1st. We made 2
Yeah.
amendments to it, and now we're making a 3rd amendment. So it doesn't go back to 22, it starts November, this description here starts November
Right.
1st.
So
I'm
give
just
us a
curious, if
chance.
our employee worked only 178 days, what do we need somebody in the summer for making 26,000? Does that make sense?
Well,
Now it's a year-round contract for somebody? I guess that's my
It's gonna,
question.
one of the
depends
biggest
on
things
the
too, is
person.
it's including supplies as well, because currently, when we pay our employee that we have on payroll, we're still buying those supplies
Mhm.
for that, but I still budget with Tanya, a supply budget for $8,000 just for
that
those 2
that
buildings.
position.
So-
The ones she's technically cleaning currently.
Correct.
So we're relieved of the person and the supplies.
Correct.
With this 26,000.
Right. And
So,
they're cleaning 2 buildings, Building 10 and Building 9.
So which 2 buildings are those?
The 2-4 building and the
2-4.
elementary library.
So the school bought those supplies?
Currently, we do for those 2 buildings.
Only those 2
What
buildings?
Building 10 and Building 9.
Because that employee works for us,
Correct.
and it's not
But
under the
they have shared
contract.
supplies.
Right.
Well,
And
they'll
sharing
help us, they help us out when we, like, they bought all new vacuums, SSC did, so they let her have a vacuum, so there's some things that are shared.
Yeah, there's some trade-off in there.
Do we spend $8,000 a year on those 2 buildings, you think?
Total is what I have budgeted this year, just for supplies. All of the
What did we spend
supplies.
last year?
I'll go back and pull that.
Close to it?
Yeah, about $7,500.
So this contract includes hourly rate, salary, benefits, and custodial supplies, which we should have this for 30 hours a week till June 30th.
Correct.
Yes.
So roughly breaks down to $31 an hour for those services. Roughly.
Well, you don't want to calculate, you don't want to blend this, because they're buying the supplies too.
It's gonna be, it's an annual
Right, I understand.
contract of 26.5.
Right.
And so they're not gonna be getting 26.5
between now and June.
between now and July.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't think.
Right.
No, it'll be
No,
prorated
no,
based on
prorated,
that
that's right,
portion.
yeah. I was using, I
That's
think
what
what
I
you're
was
saying, I was
asking,
using it for
that's
the
the-
full 26,000.
So- Because we're not ready to, obviously, as I told him, approve this tonight, we're
Yeah.
presenting it to you knowing that we're gonna have a 2-week lag where we've gotta cover that building through their services.
Correct.
With the intentionality to approve this in November. Give us time to make sure that these discussions you've heard tonight are cleaned up, that there's a prorated amount, and that we know the total amount to include the individual plus the supplies.
Okay.
And then we can embrace that contractor action next month.
So don't we expect to have to redo this one, or maybe in November?
Right, because if you,
Yeah,
look-
it won't say on November 1st, I pulled that from Josh this afternoon.
and if you look down, it says revised annual contract price will be increased on July 1st.
Right. that's-
Me,
It needs to be
that's-
23.
Okay.
So,
There's a quite a bit of things in this
There's
that need,
questions.
the thing I wanted you to know is this is the general cost in the transition.
yes, that we're gonna add
Now,
some.
we're gonna clean, the language up, the amount to prorate it.
Okay,
But with that, it's going to include the person and the supplies.
gotcha.
But we're currently paying for the person and the supplies and their retirement.
I'd say we benefit.
We
Yes,
benefit.
yes,
We're getting
okay.
rid of all the responsibility.
We'll get more details when y'all get it cleaned up and brought to us for approval. Our monthly checklist, our safety checklist looks good. Everything's working well there.
Did you ever figure anything out when I asked you about the?
I did. A year ago, we had 6 golf carts. This year, we purchased 3. We're allowing some shared usage during the daytime for efficiency, and also they would be required to drive their personal vehicle to each of the campuses for those tasks. We checked with 2 other districts. They're making them use personal vehicles as well.
Correct,
And
they
that
are.
is something that we could look at potentially negotiating with them in the future if we're going to provide that. You did it solely for efficiency, for those day custodians and appearance.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah,
just on our campus, we have lots of
Parking's an
conversations
issue.
with Lakeside and Lake Hamilton, they make them drive their personal vehicles. It's just before, after school, just the efficiency of getting around. It made sense for those 3 to be on golf carts, just to get around campus. The night crew didn't have golf carts for the first, I guess since the SEC contract actually started, but we just took that away this past month. So just day porters now on golf carts. So there's
Maybe
3.
Based on
I
that
mean,
discussion.
I mean, it may be something to look at. I mean, we're paying for them.
Mhm.
So maybe something.
Maintaining them.
Maintaining them, paying for the fuel, whatever.
Right.
Negotiate it in their contract.
Sure.
If they want to drive them, if not, buy some golf carts.
Right.
I mean, it's easy as that.
Mhm.
okay. Other questions related to the SSC contract? All right. School, the safety report, I don't think there's much to talk about there. Looks good. Thank you for including that in here, just so we can see it. And is that all you have
I
for
believe
now?
it was.
No, on our new business,
Yeah,
you will
it was on
be,
capital improvements, and that was it. Or on, underneath movement?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
we'll be back to you as soon as we get to our new business. Mr. Campbell, you want to talk to us about
Yeah,
school
just
report cards?
Briefly, LinkedIn, so that it was accessible and remind folks where to look. You can go to the My School Info page and click in. You see there the elementary, up from a D to a C. And you can see there that they are above the state average for the year. So made some progress there, moved forward on the middle school remained a C from this year to last year, and there it's not there, here, and there you see that 67.31 was their index score, and state average was 66.74. So you see there as well that they surpassed the state average. And then high school, also a C, maintained their C. And 63.14, and that's just below by 1 point the state average, 64.14. So as we talked about it earlier in that district academic achievement goal, the issue is not that we're not growing students. We have good growth scores across the board. It's that we've got to raise the overall achievement of our student population. And so that's a big part of what that goal that you all discussed with Dr. Murphy about is focused on, shifting that achievement level upward. And that's going to be a challenge because folks are not going to understand why they've always made an A and now they're not making an A anymore. And it's because they're not achieving at A levels. But we're giving them A's for compliance or practice or quizzes that we go over and give them the answers to. And,
Right.
and those sorts of things. It's just, and it's,
And not everyone's a great test taker. We understand, and but in the confines of the outcome and weighted achievement, it's kind of like if you miss a second free throw, it don't count. And so the achievement and the performance level, either at proficient or advanced, is going to create the weight.
and we're putting the systems in place to support them to get there. And it's just a matter of holding them to that standard and holding ourselves to that standard of getting them there. Not, as the commissioner said in his opening address, loving them into mediocrity.
Absolutely.
We've got to love them into achievement.
To exceptionalism.
Yes, ma'am. So just wanted to link those in there today for you all to be able to access. And we've got lots more coming up in the reports to the public, so that would be all I had at this point.
Okay. Is there?
Nobody signed up.
Nobody, because we don't have it.
So, quick question on those, not on
Yeah.
the report card, but, so our charter expires 2025 for high school? Is that what I'm looking at? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next year.
And the middle school expires the end of
This
this
year.
year.
Middle school's this year?
Middle
I think
school is this year, and
the
so
end of
in
the
that
school year.
communication that we had, we will allow for that charter will expire.
This school year?
This
Yes.
school year, it will be done, and then we will look at the high
So
school
it says-
in the following year.
High school says 25, okay.
Yeah, the expectation would be in the fall of '24, you would reapply if you were going to, but we would not be at this point, unless somebody tells me different. We wouldn't be reapplying.
All right. Let's move into our new business, and we have one motion tonight. Ryan, you got that?
Yeah, we have a motion to approve the McHenry aggregates lease agreement.
All right, so we're gonna turn it back over to Hayden and give us a brief. We know what the McHenry deal is,
Okay.
so tell us what we need.
Yeah,
Just
so
tell
I
them
mean,
what's the
What do we
modifications
need
to the
to know?
contract based on the last one.
Sure.
You've got highlights
Sure,
over
let's run the
there.
highlights. First one should be regarding insurance. Yep. So, we had it written where we would insure everything. McHenry pointed out, did point out that we only want to insure our facility that we build. So we're not doing a 50 by 50 building to 14-foot bay doors, and we would insure that. They would insure everything else inside the building. So that was one contract modification.
They would hold any liability.
We're building the building?
Yes, that
We
was
have to build
always
the building.
part of
Is
the,
that part of it?
Mhm.
Yes.
that they wanted us to construct. And then
It's so long
because,
ago.
Right.
because then when they
It's been a
leave,
while.
when they leave at the conclusion of their work, the
Then we
building
get
would
the
stay
building.
here, it would be ours.
Right.
So we would be able to, yeah, that was an original item.
Item 18 was edited. Currently it read before 1 month for a right of cancellation. I got changed to a right of on 6 month prior written notice.
So if either party wants to discontinue the contract, you'd have 6 months notice for them to get anything off the premises
So,
versus 30 days. It felt like that was unrealistic.
is it?
Yep.
Did we talk back then, like what it's gonna cost us to build that shop?
I don't remember ever talking.
No, we never talked about the cost or location. That's something we needed to decide on, kind of where we're at tonight. I was honestly expecting this to go in next month's board meeting. Got a call this afternoon at 3:10, and they're trying to get the mining permit approved. And to do that, they needed this signed so they can prove that they have access to this land since they don't own it.
So
I mean, but the building itself really can be pretty simple. It's
Yes.
nothing but a bear shop.
it needs a 14-foot
Slab and
residential
wall.
slab. It does need a bathroom in the corner, so we gotta get water to it.
Yeah.
We gotta have power to it. To kind of go back in terms of the review of that, the building was a part of the conversations that we had, and we don't have to finalize a location, but we need to control cost, and we really have pinpointed 2 locations for consideration. One is directly behind Safe Room B, and 2 is in the asphalt parking area right there at the field house level, which is your old original handicap parking area. So they could come off the mountain, through the yellow gate, right into the shop right there. That would be the other location. That location, upon the completion of this work, if the mining permit's approved, the contract materializes through a 5-year window to a 7-year window, they believe that there's enough material there. If they sell that in full, you would be able to stand at football field level and see the edge of our property on grade. Now, if you remember when we put together a proposal, we had roughly an excavation cost of about $3.8 million to take that grade down to the press box. If we take that grade down to the field level, your net gain will exceed $7 million in terms of what it would take to excavate that area, and the cost to the district would solely be the partnership for allowing them access to the land. So the net true gain, technically, from a revenue perspective,
Well, yeah, it's huge.
So-
it's
Yeah.
massive.
It's just we gotta come up and
relationship,
figure out.
But I want to make that statement because some may say you have to build a building. And so, yes, we have to build a building that's going to return to our ownership for our use. And we just had a pretty significant conversation around storage in the field house area. And I feel like that could either be potentially future locker rooms,
Yeah,
for
how
baseball,
big is it gonna
softball,
be?
it could
50 by
be
50?
storage in that area. So we're kind of leaning towards guiding you towards that grade area up there, because behind Safe Room B, we would have to build a much larger footprint initially to house classrooms in there. It would be much larger than 50 by 50, and so 50 by 50 sets up to be a better served space for storage and repurposing a facility, knowing we've had a pretty lengthy discussion tonight on the current design in that area. Knowing full well that if you open up all that space in your facility plan, you could bring tennis, baseball, and softball to that location on grade in the future, and you might already have an additional building already at the disposal of those activities. So it's a little premature to finalize where it goes. You really need to start thinking about that. We need to have those discussions. If approval of this goes through tonight, it positions them to work with the state to take the permit, because they will not issue the permit unless they see a partnership contract with the entity who is the owner of the land, is what we were told today. We asked them to get a permit before we brought it to the board, because I didn't want to bring it to you without a state permit, and now it's being put in our, in our court to go back to them to say that the partnership is real, at which point in time they'll proceed to obtain the excavation permit.
Do we need, I know we talked about this and I didn't look through the whole lease, but do we need something in writing? I mean, these guys can't be rolling dump trucks in and out at 3:15 every afternoon and 8 in the morning, so there's.
We had something.
We've had
Yeah,
a
we
lot of
verbally
conversations
talked about
around
that.
the operational day with the company. You know,
I get it.
I
Not
think
a
we
big
will
fan
be
of
okay
verbal,
there.
but Okay.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah, I mean, we probably need some more, we
I mean,
had those conversations.
Okay, but they're aware that you.
They are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we're kind of guiding is they have to have a little ticket booth. So if you get down on the south end, right beside, you know how we put the new handicap parking area where we're seeing some buses parking there at football games, back in that area, that's also on grade. And so we envision they'll come off of the mountain right there, come through that yellow gate and come out the main entrance with any loads. Any loads would stay as far away from our kids as possible, and they would exit on and on. All of the trucks will come in and out on this end.
Are they gonna replace the asphalt, or are we?
Well, you know, I don't know what that's going to look like. I do know that all of the asphalt is spec'd to handle it, excluding the area from the corner up through the yellow gate, because it was 6 inches. And it was compacted. So it was designed to handle truck traffic. Here again, at this point in time, what do you negotiate into this deal? I don't know. That's something that we could go back on them, but that would be an addendum to this contract, knowing full well what we have to gain. I don't know what that overlay would end up being.
Yeah,
if you had
it's
to mill it.
definitely gonna happen. I mean, that was the very first thing we talked about, was how long that road's gonna last. We'll get for sure several years, and we expect it to support, you know, a 45,000 pound load. Of course, you're over that limit. It'll definitely hold it, but it's a matter of how long. So.
Yeah, they're gonna be running out here with 80,000 pounds.
Correct, yeah, 75, 80,000 pounds.
Often.
Right. So, that's something we'll definitely have to visit, have to monitor it and see.
Contract currently does not expect them to replace the road.
Right.
I mean, it's something that warrants consideration.
Yeah.
Well, you made a good point, because people will ask, I mean, it is a huge game.
Huge win for us.
But somebody already asked me about it.
Sure.
And I explained, like, look, we're talking about probably $8 million worth of dirt work we'd have to pay for it.
If we want to go to the grade of the
Right.
football.
Right, if you want to get to there, you're talking close to $8 million.
Right.
That we will not pay for. But we will have,
The thing that,
Pay for.
there will be,
building and a road.
there will be asphalt issues, we know that.
well, the thing that I would tell you that the trade-off will be is a variable of time.
Yeah.
We don't know what the economy will entail. You know, depends on the market. They'll sell that based on demand. And so they do believe with what they've experienced over the past 5 years, that the material that's available there, they can move in a 5-year window.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Yeah, out of that whole cut down at Gray was a little over 850,000 cubic yards, and they ran just that within a 5-year window of their current query.
And it is across the road from Cobra Drive turnout on Fox Pass.
Yeah.
That's where they're currently located. They'll bring a crusher over here.
No, they'll get rid of it, I'm sure.
Now, the first other thing that you need to be aware of until they get it kind of mined down is dependent upon the time of the year, there'll be some dust. You've got to think about the location of the facility in relation to the overall campus. I think it is an area where we can manage that and it's workable. But anytime you're excavating like that, there's going to be some dust until they get, the intention behind it would be is the piece where the press box is at, a 20 to 30 yard threshold right there would be the last thing to go. And so they'll kind of mine in through the area, and then the last thing that comes down is over near the bleachers, the press box, and that area. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that would allow it to kind of control the environment better. Fencing will be a priority. We will definitely, it'll be, is there a negative to that? It's an active construction site for a 5-year window that students are not allowed to be in, and there have to be perimeter fencing and signage around it, and stiff consequences for anyone who trespasses on it, because there's a liability associated with that. So I try to lay out as much as there's positives to doing the work. There is some negatives. If you paid for it, the only thing you gain is a quicker variable of time. But then you're expending to get that time. So I feel like it's a positive, it's a win for the district in terms of the work, what we've kind of been back and forth. This has been something that's kind of been out there for 2+ years. I think it kind of boils down to they're eager and ready because they're going to be relocating.
Relocating close.
Yeah. I'm not on the move far. Any other questions? Those are all good questions.
Very good question.
And things that will warrant further discussion. For now, we have a motion on the table to approve the McHenry Aggregates lease agreement. All in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed. That motion is approved 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Motion in personnel.
Personnel.
Motion to accept the retirement or resignation from the personnel below for the correlating positions: Dr. Michael Murphy, District Superintendent; Sylvia Romero; Ginger Murphy, High School Media Center Specialist; and Parent and Community Engagement Facilitator.
Okay. So just to add clarification on what Brian just read as the motion, Dr. Murphy and Ginger Murphy's resignation will not be effective until the end of the school year. Ms. Romero's is going to be effective October 31st.
Correct.
So obviously, to those of you watching, the board is not taken by surprise by this announcement. We have had this conversation with Dr. Murphy. And while we are sad that you are choosing to leave us, we know that...
Choosing to retire.
That's right, choosing to retire. We know that retirement is also a thing that we all, as we get older, look forward to doing. We all want to retire someday, right?
It's not what it's cut out.
Lloyd's been there. So, there'll be a lot more that we have to say as we go through the school year, but it's not like you're leaving right now. So we have you for the rest of the school year. We have Miss Murphy for the rest of the school year. And so we're just going to continue as business as usual for right now. All right, the motion on the table is to accept the retirement, / resignation from the personnel below for the correlating positions, Dr. Michael Murphy, District Superintendent, effective at the end of the school year, which would be June 30th of '24. Sylvia Romero, effective 10/31 of this year. And Ginger Murphy, High School Media Center Specialist and Parent and Community Engagement Facilitator, also effective at the end of the school year. All in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed. That motion carries 5-0. It's a bittersweet kind of thing to have to accept, and I'm sure it is for you too.
Everybody at the table, yes.
Yes, yes. Next motion,
Motion to hire William Grissom as full-time bus route driver for the remainder of the 23-24 school year.
any questions on that? A motion to hire William Grissom as a full-time bus route driver for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. All in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed. That motion carries 5-0.
Are we like caught up? Are we still short?
I think we're in a really good spot now. That
And
hire-
then using teachers and
We're down to, this time of the year with golf and tennis going at the same time, and football, yes, we're using a lot of subs. Once that season's over, we'll be in a lot better spot, but yes, we still rely on.
At least three.
We at least rely on 3.
I mean, we're pretty much
Full-time teachers.
We're in a pretty good spot, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this last hire was, just delayed on getting his test packet done, and so he's been on a time card until he gets test pass.
We got 3 teachers currently that drive full-time.
Bachelors.
They're choosing to drive, but, it requires us to make accommodations to ensure we're covering things at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. I mean, there's
the ones that driving want to.
Yeah, they want to drive. It's not that they don't want to drive. I mean, it's just we're managing that. But when he asked the question, are we full? When you were talking about teachers subbing, we have 3 teachers that do routes every day. It's
Well, I didn't
full-time
mean,
routes.
or we hadn't used them. I knew we used teachers. I'm
Yeah.
wondering overall picture of, are we covered?
Yes, yeah, overall we're in a very good spot. Like I said, just this time of the year when those 3 teachers are in sports and stuff, but yeah, we're in a really good spot.
But we could be in a different spot with Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying that lightly, it's extremely challenging to staff that driving fleet in today's environment. You've been on a bus ride, checking on the heat, you kind of saw the behaviors that take place on a bus,
Hey,
even with
if
you
I
being an
was-
adult on the bus.
I wish we had.
So let's leave it,
I
let's
wish we
leave
had
it at
cop
that.
cars. No, I'm serious. I wish we had it where you had a driver, and you had somebody managing the bus. Because, I mean, the girl that was on the bus that day, she did a good job.
I know.
I mean, she was pretty.
But I mean, there will be a point in time where that statement will be a very real consideration.
Have we ever
Okay.
thought about, real quick on that,
Uh-huh.
like
Moving on.
asking for volunteers, like veterans and stuff like that? Do we reach out to them organizations, like veterans or the village? I mean, I know we have people that.
It could be an area that,
There's a lot of places that, a veteran, I mean, you ask a veteran, he'll do anything. I mean, that'd be something to.
Yeah, I'll grab that one. On the veteran side, no, I have not yet. Jennifer Freeman just sent me actually a list that she got, it's about a week or so ago, from some veterans in the village that would love to
Yes.
ride buses.
Oh,
So,
oh,
wow, look, that's right.
amazing. That's so good.
you know where to go.
But, we do a lot of, we had it this year, last year, we did a lot of email blast out to certified, classified staff, giving them a rate of pay of $15 an hour just to ride the school bus. Very,
Help with
very
discipline.
low participation on that. We're still struggling in that area. Mr. Freeman's been riding quite a bit.
I did, yeah.
Yes, target your veterans, patrons in the community may be a good next step.
Well, next year, we may look at retired educators.
There you go. Oh.
They'll make sure it's in the community.
Okay, bringing it
I
back
heard
around.
that.
If we have no further business in relation to this, we are going to adjourn our regular school board meeting right now. That is adjourned. We are going to take about a 3-minute break, and then we're going to convene and start the report to the public. So y'all get to stretch your legs for 3 minutes. We'll be right back. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we are going to call to order the Fountain Lake Conversion Charter High School Annual Report to the public meeting, yes, meeting, said that right. Okay, high school. Mr.
All right,
Jeanette.
so our first slide goes into, one of the goals that we were looking for from last year was to exceed our weighted achievement by 10%. Obviously going from 48 down to 44, we did not meet that goal. That's one of the reasons we mentioned the attendance factor. And there are some other factors that go along with that school report card, but getting that weighted achievement score built on several categories will help us in the long run. So one of the goals is got to get kids to school.
Yes, and that, again, the reminder, the weighted achievement is based on the number of students who are proficient, correct?
There are several parts to that weighted achievement, yes, but on that particular portion of it, yeah, it looks at those kids that are what Arkansas is going to call ready and exceeding.
Ready and exceeding.
Correct. But it also goes into the secondary goal that you're going to look here. If we move kids from INS is in need of support to close, we gain points. If we move a kid from close to ready, we gain a point. We can move them from in need of support to ready. It's like 1.5 points.
Gotcha.
Okay. So dealing with a cohort set of students, current juniors, in math, we were only able to move 8.7% of those kids, but moving from close to ready, we moved 10%. And I won't insult your intelligence, you guys can read our numbers. And I say cohort group, which means we had data on them from 1 year to the next. We have a lot of kids in those numbers that we didn't have from one grade to the next. So we were tracking those kids that we knew that we either had as 10th going into 9th going into 10th in our 11th grade, or coming up from 8th to 9th grade.
Yeah, in both years.
Correct.
So those were your scores, your most recent scores of your
Correct.
percentage of
Those were-
students that were in need of support.
That we moved. So we're looking at moving kids from in need of support to close, and we were able to move 8.7%.
Of the in need of support, we're
Correct.
able to move them to close.
Correct. And then 10% of those kids from close to ready.
Okay,
But once again, it's like I said, those are our students that were ours in one grade and the next.
okay.
But we have a high number of students still in those two areas. We need our kids in the ready and exceeding, and we're gonna make the assumption that Arkansas is gonna stay with those four categories, in need of support, close, ready, and exceeding, as we move into Atlas. Because we're still gonna be held to the same accountability standard, with no baseline year.
Gotcha.
Do you
Okay?
feel like on those tests that really, the kids even try on the test? I mean, they're not getting a grade for it.
Correct. Some do, some don't. Some don't see any value in it, and sometimes it comes from outside factors. I mean, I have enough paperwork I can show you. There are correlations between Aspire numbers and ACT, but even when we start segregating our own areas and looking at the Aspire to the ACT, we're having a hard time connecting some of the dots, because our scores on Aspire were either much higher or much lower than what our kids were performing on the ACT. Yeah,
And there is no evidence, Mr. J, that there's moving to an end of course exam, kind of what you're alluding to, a culmination of an end of course exam as a summative, where it ties to the grade and is also.
I was
part of
actually
the report.
thinking incentivize them.
Right.
We're incentivized in what context?
I don't know. I don't know.
You dreaming for a minute? I mean, money?
Huh? I mean, you give a Sonic dream thing, I'll do it. I don't know what you can do. I'm just saying, for my kid's gonna try a lot harder, because the kids, they don't see it as a grade, so they're not gonna give it all they got. I mean, it's just,
And that,
and their parents don't see value in it.
It's not a
lot of-
high-stakes test.
No.
like they're gonna be retained.
Like they're gonna be retained. There's no
So then the
consequences.
question becomes, how much value do we put on the report card grade? If the parents don't care about the test that we're giving, that the report card grade is based on, why are we spinning our wheels on the report card grade when what we're doing is trying to take care of kids?
No,
I'm not
I get it.
kicking the report card down the road, but seriously, that's the question
Yeah.
that comes to mind, is if nobody cares about the test, then how are we gonna impact the report card grade? Ever.
It's a
Nobody
kid's
cares
And I
about the
think it
test,
goes-
then why are they gonna come to school anymore?
You know, I'm of the old school, but I think it goes to a deeper level of, you know, if you have the knowledge, like if we are educating children, not just to regurgitate statistics or answers, but we are educating them and they are learning and their brains are expanding, then when they get a test in front of them, and they look at it, they go, I know the answer to that, I know the answer to that, I know the answer to that. I mean, you know, it really goes, to me, it goes back to that foundational, are we teaching them how to learn? You know, are we?
Or are we teaching them how to take a test?
Exactly.
We're teaching them how to take a test.
And I don't
Let's just
think
be
that
honest. We're
works.
teaching them how to take a test.
And
Have been
that
for years.
just doesn't motivate anybody.
It is a twofold deal.
There's another aspect too, just of having a son that just went to college and started visiting colleges in 11th grade. So from 11th grade till he decided he probably went to 8, and not a single one gave anything about an ACT score. So kids are seeing that they're moving away from that at that level, but in high school, we're still pounding that test down on them.
Because, two factors. Number one, any kid that wants a scholarship better have an ACT test, and they better have a score. Second, you're gonna pay more money when you have it under 19, because if your kid's making it to college and they're not at that level, you're paying for those remediation courses and they're getting money out of your pocket. Now, honestly and truthfully, National Park, probably one of the least expensive colleges we have in the state. But I'm just gonna tell you, they're gonna take your money just like the rest of them. But they're gonna, oh, please come, please come. We'll
Yeah,
take
but
your
I'm
GPA.
telling you, my son got an academic scholarship with zero emphasis on his ACT. Not a zero.
Required, you don't have to submit
No,
it.
it was
It's
all
not
everywhere we went. What's your
required.
GPA? What's your GPA?
Right.
And that's how their scholarship where he's at Henderson is based on GPA tiers. Not, I'm saying as an aspect of what we're seeing, kids know this.
Sure.
So it's even harder to get them to go, well, why do I care about this test? So that's not your fault, my fault, but it's part of it.
Sure.
I think.
And that's part of.
Because mine, when he got his, he's like, well, I'm not taking it again. Why would I? Well, what am I gonna say?
And I know, y'all have challenging jobs.
Yes,
And, and
that was the point of that, very
I know,
much so.
You know.
You know, there have to be ways that we can
Yeah, so
support
one-
you in that effort.
Yeah, but one thing we also remind all the kids, if you want to be a master plumber, there's a test involved. You want to be a master electrician, there's a written test involved. I mean, and it's not going to be an open book test.
Nope,
So,
No,
nope. Their tests are part of life.
unfortunately, they want a driver's permit, take a test.
There's a test for that.
That's right. All right.
But that's my point, is when they studied for those tests, at the end of that test, they get a master's electrician license.
Correct.
Or they get a plumber's license, or they get a driver's license. At the end of these tests, what do they get? That's my whole point.
I get it.
Attaboy, Mr. George.
Well, I'm just saying, is there things in our room that we can do?
Right.
Man, no, we
That's for
can't.
discussion, you know, I mean, truly. There've been schools that have incentivized some of that stuff here in Garland County,
Well, there you go.
so.
So next one is continuation of goals. getting our kids college and career ready based on those 4 points of English, math, science, and reading. So this year we had 14 students make that. State had 12. Compared to last year, we were 19 and 13. Had more kids on the upper end of the scale in the ACT, because remember we had a national merit finalist. Okay. Kind of some comparison at the bottom there between us and the state average, and we're still above the state average, but you see where the nation's at.
That's a cheap.
Next one's just going to give you graphs of kind of 9th grade. And these are our, like I said, these are our Aspire scores from last year. And then the ACT test, and you're getting a 2-year comparison between the state and us. And then the national average over there on the far right. And it doesn't matter what magazine you look at or what you want to read and you want to compare us to everyone else. Arkansas still sits under that, 45, 46, 47, 48. We're going to battle it out between Louisiana and Mississippi. As long as it's not football right now, we'll be okay.
That was broken
Yeah, this is the number of kids we have currently out at National Park Tech. We've got 51 students. We have 2 students enrolled in the apprenticeship program. 14 of our kids are on online college courses, 33 kids enrolled in concurrent credit. Gave you some comparisons on those career tech certificates. Had 43 students in 2001 with 49. Last year we had 45 students with 48. So we've got some kids who are making those completers in those courses. And they're good skills that they're going to come out with. And then put this on your calendar, May the 10th.
Dang right.
Yes.
You dang right.
Well, it's interesting, the furthest one from the average was reading. And to me, I'm not a teacher, but reading solves a whole lot of those other things.
When you look at the Aspire and you look at the ACT, reading on Aspire is the harder between it and English. And for some reason, English is just very low level. But when you try to correlate that to the ACT, it's almost backwards. Don't know why, but the same company made the test.
Well, I'm just saying, it's not a coincidence. I mean,
What?
smarter kids are readers.
Correct.
Absolutely. All right, any other questions for Mr. Janeski on his report to the public for the high school? If not, we will adjourn that meeting, and we will now call to order the Fountain Lake Cobras Digital Prep Academy, which is our middle school, annual report to the public. We're calling that meeting to order, and Mrs. Inman will be joining us via Zoom, I think.
She was there.
It's all you, Miss Inman.
Miss Inman, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Oh.
So just to,
And we hear Lou.
sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you for allowing me to join by Zoom. I apologize.
Yes, no problem.
But I just wanted to start off with some celebrations. I know that there's been a lot of conversations about our RTI process at the middle school, and we did see some tremendous gains and improvements through that work that we did in both behavior and academic intervention. So that's one reason why each month we have celebrated those gains that we've made on the behavior realm, as well as you'll see in our academic improvements. And so students are going to continue to be provided intervention or school-based tutoring, as we're calling it now, in both math, literacy, and behavior. All of our staff has definitely made a strong commitment to character education. We think that that is something that our students are lacking in a lot of areas and greatly needing. And so to help continue their social and emotional learning growth, and we are all really loving the new program that we added to supplement
with our character education, and that's called Character Strong. We are continuing our work with the 5th and 6th graders to receive group counseling each week, just kind of to work mostly to improve their self-esteem and decrease the fear issues that we have between one and the other. The transition from elementary to middle school is really difficult, and we have just noticed that this additional layer of support is crucial for them. We are happy to celebrate as a National Beta School of Distinction, so that is one thing that our Beta Club is extremely proud of. And we do have some new elective courses that we have implemented this year that have been a really big hit in our elective options. One of those is a dance class, and our students are actually performing for the first time on Friday for their parents. So we also have a new offering called Countries and Cultures, and each week they are learning all about different countries and their cultures, and then they are making food from those countries and trying that out, so really awesome. And then we also had the addition of an interior design class, so that is kind of expanding our design and modeling into some interior design options. So those are some celebrations that we wanted to look at to start off. So we do have our scores in our 5th grade. You can see that we're holding really close with the state average. Math is probably our area of weakness that you can see in 5th grade. And but we are really happy, of course, with English, and our goal is to continue to increase that reading comprehension because that's impacting them on all levels. In 6th grade, we are a little bit lower. These scores have trended with this group. I did a study of their scores from 3rd through 6th grade, and this group has trended just to be right below the state average since they were in 3rd grade. So nothing within those ranges took us by great surprise. Our 7th grade group, they have been greatly in line with the state or above for the past 2 years, so they're continuing to trend. Our 7th grade last year actually had our highest growth score for our building, and so that is a really positive addition. They had double-digit score increases in both math and science, so we're very proud of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so 8th grade, they're trending to be the highest in our building in reading. This is something that we really hope that they could continue well into high school. That will set them on a really strong foundation. And so our 8th grade students, these are regular scores for them as well. They have trended in a positive direction for the past 3 years. So one of our biggest improvements that we had was really moving our students from a need of support to close. We had a 17% gain in those students, and so if we continue to trend that within 3 years, we should have closed our achievement gap. So we're well on our way to some really exciting data coming out of our building if we continue to trend in the same direction.
Ms. Inman, I have just a trivial question, but in this 8th grade group, is it pretty equal boys and girls, or is it heavy girls? Girls tend to be bigger, readers. They tend to be better readers. I just wondered if this was a...
Our classes are actually pretty balanced in the middle school. I only know that because we split them for PE with boys and girls, so they're pretty balanced with it.
I was just going to give a shout out to the girls because I figured they're right those reading scores.
Take that.
Well, I will tell
We're talking about gender bias.
No.
Just because I am a little bit of a math nerd, you guys know that, I did trend scores for girls in math just out of curiosity, and our girls do trend high in math, which is really exciting for just women in STEM, so it's kind of something to celebrate as we look for our career speakers and things like that.
Yeah, because the stereotype is that girls can't do math, and that's a stereotype.
Yeah.
We want to break that stereotype.
Yeah, we want to cut down those barriers. Girls and boys can each do anything they dream of.
That's right.
So, our PLC regular schedule is something that we hold true to each week. We do not vary from this. Nothing else supersedes this in our schedules, and so we make sure that our grade level teams are meeting weekly with Ms. Richard. We really look at data-driven decision-making, and that is not only for student intervention, but also if we feel like there's additional screening that needs to take place. You would be surprised how many kids have not really shown a great deficiency until they get into the upper level grades and might need something different. Once per 9 weeks, our teachers are going to continue to evaluate those advisory plans. And then another thing that we have really continued to do over the past 2 years is to increase our positive parent communication. And so our teachers send out emails, post-it notes, and phone calls to give out those positive kudos as well as their performance concerns. So just as a parent myself, it's something I really appreciate is to receive those positive comments about things that are going well with the teachers and the students. So our 2023 building goals, we are still wanting to continue to implement our Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions for both math and reading. That is going to be crucial, and we have a lot of new students in our building this year, and we're not very familiar with their needs. We don't have as much data on them, so we work to get to know them just as well with proper programming. I have a strong belief that when we can improve our school culture and climate, that you will see a growth in that in our academic performance. So we're going to continue that through our social emotional learning program and advisory, and just continue to support them through the positive-based intervention structures that we have for behavior through some of our monthly incentives that we're doing. And I do agree with some of the things that you're saying. They need some intrinsic motivation, so that's what we're going to continue to do. We had a huge decrease in our discipline infractions last year, but our goal is for an additional 25%. So if we were to have an additional 25% reduction, that would put us at about a 10 to 15% of our student population having a discipline infraction, which would be a really comfortable number. And that also gives us a smaller population of students that need targeted behavior intervention. So kind of a twofold effect there. And our goal is to increase our reading proficiency by 1.5 grade levels on Mastery Connect. So each quarter, when we take those quarterly assessments through our new program that we are so thankful to have through Canvas, we will be able to monitor their reading proficiency levels. So it's not just about their content exams, but also give us a really good lifestyle level on the students, so we know what level they're reading at and how we can push them. So we are going to continue, this is kind of a repeat from just our previous wellness goals. We're going to continue to encourage healthy and active lifestyle choices. We do some significant work in the area of vaping prevention, smoking cessation, and of course, choosing to be drug and alcohol free. But not only those things, but also encouraging our students to hold a physically active life and encourage them to seek that presidential fitness challenge. And last but not least for our goal areas is just to continue our social skills in a positive way. And so we are continuing to engage students through just social awareness and self-management. Some students might not have anywhere else but school that they learn those relationship skills or responsible decision making. And so our Leader in Me work and books that we choose really helps them to navigate some of those decisions that they'll make at the middle school level as they navigate, all the changes in their life and probably the weirdest time that they experience. And so we're going to continue that work. We have a commitment to 25 minutes a day of that type of programming in our class, and then also our additional commitment with Coach Willis in our behavior intervention room. And just for some fun, just to continue to look at every student every day, these are just some like one of our other classes. Two of these pictures is Miss Weisner's theater class went over to the elementary to show off their first production that they've done in theater this first 9 weeks. And then just to showcase Whitley Eggleston, who was one of our nationals winners for her photography award at Beta Nationals. So
Good.
it's happening at the middle school.
Good stuff going on over there.
Thank you.
Yes. Board members, do y'all have any questions for Ms. Inman? We appreciate you jumping on Zoom to join us. And there you are. Now we can see you. We appreciate you being here to present that for us. And good work. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yes. We'll see you at the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, we will adjourn the middle school report to the public, and we will call to order the Fountain Lake District Annual Report to the Public meeting. And we will begin with, are we starting with elementary?
We'll do elementary, yeah.
Okay, we're doing elementary first. All right, Ms. Curry, you're up.
Your stream's looking a little bit slow.
Well, we can get it to load.
Yeah, you'll look at it, so that's stream.
Oh, there's
Oh,
Mr.
there it is.
Gamble.
There you
Hers must be big.
It's not.
Yeah, she is. Well,
Must be a special report.
Got 100
Information in
slides.
there. 14 slides.
Yeah.
4 are pictures that Ms. Freeman put in there, and we only had 2 picture slides, so, no, okay. Okay, here we go. No, we have a lot of celebrations this year going on in the elementary. I'm super excited that we, increased from a D to a C, so our teachers' hard work sure paid off, and our kids are working hard as well. We are committed to collaborative planning and implementation of our new literacy curriculum. Our students are highly engaged, and they are excited about learning. They're doing some projects at the end of each unit, and we're going to involve some parents in those, so we're excited about those. First grade did one on bones a couple weeks ago, and skeletons.
Did one on, bones and skeletons?
And they rotated classes, so that was pretty cool. So our kids are excited, and they're engaged in that learning and vocabulary, and we're really happy to see that. The staff, just can't brag on them enough. They work diligently every week with their teams through not only planning with their grade level teams, but RTI and our PLC process, where we use our foundational reading data to drive our instruction, whether that's in small groups or even looking at that for our tier 1 instruction, and if we need to adjust that as well. Our teachers, SPED, and intervention teams work collaboratively together, so it's just one big happy family of people that collaborate and communicate, and so that happens a lot at the elementary level, and I just appreciate that they have that teamwork. And we are intentionally implementing a tiered system of support, not only for academics, but also behavior, and that is going well as well. Next are our scores from Aspire, and so this is 3rd grade, which has never seen the test before. This is also the COVID class, not to make exceptions, but this was the COVID group of kindergartners and first graders. So their scores, of course, you see reading up there in the top right, is well below the state, 21.7%. So that is a concern. It is something we are, really working on through our win time and tracking that data and really looking at what skills they're deficient in and helping them receive intervention or tutoring, you might call it, so that we can get them up to grade level. See our next one, if you want to go to slide 4. Okay, so this is grade 4, which we actually could track from the previous year, and you see that I've highlighted in green that they actually did grow from the previous year. So I'm really excited about the reading one because they grew, close to 18 points there, and the science as well. When you can read better, then you can comprehend those, complex passages and be able to do those. So that 4th grade group, who is now the 5th graders, did show quite a bit of growth. So very excited about that. Their math was at 61%. Of course, it didn't grow from the year before, but it's still well above the state. So we were very pleased with that. So
That is good.
this next data piece is what we give in September. So we have to report our assessment data 3 times to the state, and so we give that in September, January, and April. And so we take iStation this year until next year, then we'll move over to Atlas or whatever they have for us at the elementary level. But that's just the grade levels, and the tiers are actually opposite of what you would normally see. So level 1 is actually our lowest level. So you see that they're in red, but those are the ones that, that's the percentage of students that are not at grade level there. So that's the percentage of students we're really targeting through our intervention and looking at that data to make sure. But we want, of course, each year to grow and become more green and yellow. That is our literacy data for the fall. The next one is our math one for the fall, kind of comparable. See that 4th grade group, though, that we have that struggles quite a bit in literacy struggles a lot less in math. So, but Those are the scores that we track from September, and then of course we take monthly iStation tests at the beginning of each month, so we track that, we highlight that with our kids, we celebrate their growth on the Hangouts on Fridays, and then we have a bulletin board in our cafeteria where we're going to track that growth as well. They also track it within classes with each teacher. We do have a literacy goal.
Campbell's rushing me.
Yes, I'm trying to go really fast.
Well, no. You
No.
can take it when he's doing federal.
Our literacy goal, of course, is to increase our number of students that meet proficiency, because, you know, at the elementary level, those foundational skills are what needs to be mastered and in place in order to be able to read on grade level by grade 3. So we would like to see that proficiency growth from that September score, because that's the only data point we have that's similar is our iStation. So we want to grow that 20%, not only in literacy but also in math. I'll just kind of sum up the action steps. They are the same for literacy and math on both sides, but just our first and foremost is that all of our teachers will use our district-approved instructional materials that are required at Tier 1 level, so that's in the classroom that all students receive. And we're really working on strengthening that instruction, looking at what's being taught, how it matches with our standards. Are there any holes? What do we need to fill those holes with? You know, how are our students progressing in the assessments, and just tracking that data. The teachers also collaboratively design and monitor that instruction from those materials, just kind of weekly when they meet as teams, and on Wednesdays when we meet in a PLC groups. And myself, along with Ms. Freeman and our lead teacher, Ms. Fournier, and Ms. Bean, who was on campus with us for a little while, just addressing them through PLC meetings, just classroom observations, looking at how to help those teachers and what can we do to help grow them. And all teams will make our data-driven decisions to collaborate with the leadership. So we really look at our RTI system. We're on a cycle of every 6 weeks where we track our student data. And like you saw, the scores that had the red, those are the students that are in intervention. And so our assessment of those students are matching up with what the scores say. And so they are then placed in the tier that we feel supports them the best and what needs that they have. So we track that, we look at that weekly within the grade level teams. The interventionists communicate with our teachers as needed, and then every 6 weeks we come together through an RTI cycle to look again at that data to see if they've grown. If not, then what do we need to do to change that up, or what is our next step? So we also look at that to, you know, adjust our instruction based on how the students are performing. Do they need something different? Do they need a smaller group? And so we look at all those things when we're talking about our kids. So that's the same for literacy and math. So I won't repeat all that, but our goal as well in math is to increase their proficiency by 20%. Typically, I mean, historically in the elementary, math does pretty well. We usually, you know, are at the 60th percentile, 50th, 60th by the time they get to the Aspire test. So typically we do pretty well there. We don't struggle as much in math, but we still want to grow that, of course. Our next goal is our social and emotional goals. So we all know that our little people require a lot of teaching of those skills, and so we are really committed to implementing and monitoring that multi-tiered behavior system, which starts, you know, in the classroom with classroom procedures, classroom behavior contracts, and just our classroom rules, and helping them make appropriate decisions that are not only respectful, but they are, you know, necessary for social, emotional, and academic success for all of our kids. So we have a system called PBIS. We also have a team of teachers, one from each grade level, and myself, the lead teacher, our counselor, Mr. Murphy, that kind of monitor our behavior system. They meet as a team to look at the data and see how is our data trending for discipline, what are the main struggles at each grade level, how can we help fix that. They brainstorm ideas with each other. So that is a piece that we added this year, is really looking at that discipline data and how can we help that in each grade level, because each grade has a different need. For example, kindergarten might be touching each other, and, you know, fourth graders could be fighting or whatever it is. So they really look at that data to kind of see what needs to be, you know, at the forefront of the teachers, and how can we fix that and come together.
Do you have, just a question on that, do you have more behavioral issues from the youngest ones who are just coming into a school environment, or do you see it, or is it more equally distributed among your grades?
Well,
I mean, 'cause,
yeah,
you know-
mostly with our little ones, it is hard to adjust to structure, routine.
Right.
You know, listening to an adult, you know, tell you what to do, and you have to, you know, follow that instruction. So typically, you know, at the lower levels, it is,
And separation, sometimes.
Separation
it's
anxiety,
a separation
you know,
anxiety at that young
you come from-
age. They just don't want to, they'd rather stay at home.
well, and you come from being with mom or at a preschool, and then now all of a sudden you have 6 hours of
Right.
following a lot of things and listening and, you know, a lot of things. So typically until they really kind of get into that routine of it, we do see more at the lower level. But really, once they kind of get into it, it pretty well evens out in each grade level. So our kindergarten class is doing really well this year. They're already
They've adjusted.
pretty well behaved. So.
Good.
And just that we have a wellness goal that we're trying to involve all of our parents and students. See what off there? Well, I have it right here.
What was that?
Just discussing our positive, healthy lifestyle. Miss Lamb or Miss Edie in our PE room she's doing an awesome job just teaching our kids in stations, and they're really excited about that. They have MVPs every week. We have a bicycle program we're doing for kinder and first graders, and so then I'm going to be hosting some things with our parents, and I'm really excited about having our partner with the Garland County SNAP program came to me. We met, and she's going to be partnering. She works with Mr. Mason at the Walnut Valley Church, and they do some things there, but she's going to partner with one of our classes to do some project-based learning centered during the school day. So
Nice.
we're excited about that. So she really wanted to be involved in our school and community. And last but not least, the last 4 slides are only pictures, so you can just go through them.
What do you keep skipping that one slide for? There's
Well, this is
reasons.
actually. Which slide?
He's in it, I think.
Okay, well, you can look at them later. I don't need to explain them. They're pretty
I thought
self-explanatory.
maybe there was a revealing picture that you were
I don't
skipping.
think so.
I saw you in it.
Was that hand smile? Well, that's
Fingers.
Okay.
Ms. Curry, I
Yes.
heard you say something about engaging your parents on some on-campus things. Do y'all also consider the possibility of creating like a volunteer base of maybe, you know, retired people from the village, or, you know, people that might want to come in and read with a child one-on-one or something?
Yeah, and actually, a new teacher on our 3rd grade team had approached us about that last week, you know, about having some parents or community members come in and read just to help, you know, get our kids excited about reading and showing what, you know, adults outside of the school setting, you know, how that means, what it means to them. So we are going to talk about some of that and when they can kind of involve that with their parents. And then at our parental meeting, I'm just going to kind of really just get to know what our parents think might be the best ways to engage our parents differently than in the past, because we know parental involvement sometimes is a struggle.
Yeah.
You know, they just go to athletic events sometimes, but we want to make that different. So, but we have considered that, yes, and we will be doing some of those things.
Yeah, well, that, I mean, I can see where retirees who have time, and, you know, there'll be some next year that could come back in and read to students.
We always have guest readers. Yeah, we can always have guest readers.
Yes.
We got them riding the bus.
Yeah, ride the bus.
Gotta find all kinds of.
But you know, our teachers their day is full, and they have so many things that are expected of them,
Right.
you know.
But that oral language is a huge piece of what kids need all the way from K
Yes.
to grade
I'll
12.
gladly leave work to read.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, good.
You don't
I
need to
hope
read
you
it,
would
they need to read it.
put together some,
Yeah.
Absolutely,
like a
yeah, and
schedule or
yeah.
something where people can come in on a regular basis.
Sure. And we'd love to have you guys come visit our building soon. I want you to see what good things are going on, so.
Yes, and we can read a book while we're there.
Absolutely, there you go.
I like doing that. The one time I got invited to go in there and do it.
You're off every Monday.
I
She
know.
can fit you in any Monday.
I know. I could come and
Whatever you see
read.
her,
Yes.
see being off, yes.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Curry?
She can do
Those are
Mondays, she
great.
can do Fridays.
Hey, I'll set you up.
Okay, all right, that is gonna conclude, well, we're not adjourning, because we've got a district report that you are doing. Okay, so we're gonna do the district report.
Yes, ma'am. And
Right
so
now.
we shared out the district vision there as a part of this report. there are some required elements in this report that we have to include each year, and so that's why it's there. So it's not to call out board members when I get over here.
Oh, Jesus.
To your hours.
Remember how fast you
Oh,
click
wait,
it?
I gotta.
Yeah, speed it up.
I don't have that one on my computer.
So we have the district goals, and you know what those are, and we've got the 4 of those. We have our learning framework that we built out with our partnership with the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching, and we will be building on this in that goal that Dr. Murphy shared with you earlier. This all kind of all ties in together with that. There are the board training hours. Dana's knocking it out of the park, and Cindy's doing real good. And then there's the state required information. Disciplinary policies are distributed to parents. Discipline training is provided to staff. Parental involvement plan has been adopted, and the elementary, middle, and high school are all accredited. And all of those things are included in the state required information tab on our website, which is now ordered a little differently, but it's ordered in the numerical order that the State Department checklist is.
Okay.
So that's why it's in the order it's in now. It's
Not alphabetical.
It's not alpha, it never was really. It was alphabetical by whatever the first word was, which was like B and something.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of that information, that all get corrected on the website where
it's all been corrected. on the
accessible?
website.
Okay.
You can, you may have to click in a couple of places.
Right, but you can
but
get
you
there.
can just
Yeah.
keep clicking and get there. And then there are multiple years worth of that information on most of those tabs that way. There's the graduation rate, 90% for this past year. That's linked in on the My School Info page that we talked
Is that
about.
pretty average?
You'll see there on our
For the
list,
state?
that's just, we had 94% in 2020, and that was probably a stretch coming out of COVID. That was, 90 is about where we,
What is the state average, do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't,
You can probably get it on that My School Info.
yeah. I have too many tabs open right now,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
I was just curious how we trend.
So here are, we run an 8-year enrolled, the October 1 enrollment count, and you see there that high school graduated probably the largest class ever last year, like 112, 113. They graduated everybody they could find, and we only brought in 78 new kindergartners. So we graduated 112, and we brought in 78 new ones. So right there, you see an element of the number where we decreased. We went from 458 in the elementary last year to 449 this year. That does not include preschool. It's in a different place because of the way we have to report
Yes.
in the state system.
Okay.
5 through 8, we went from 428 last year, we're down to 405 this year. But if you go cat-a-corner by slide, you went from 103, that class dropped down to 100, 103 down to 102, and 113 down to 110. So you have a loss of basically 2 to 3 per class in that building. And then the rest of it would be accounted by the number who moved into the building and the number who moved out of the building. So you had 109 in there last year, and you brought in 93 new 5th graders this year. Sent out the 109 8th graders from last year. Brought in 93 5th graders this year, so that's the number there. High school, there you see, you had 109 last year. For seniors, you have 74 this year. Last year we had 3 year 13 seniors. This year we have 2 year 13 seniors. Those are special needs students who have stayed an additional year. So that's who those are. And so that brings the high school, it was 406 last year, 360 this year. So overall, we went from 1351 to 1213, add in the pre-K 1410 to 1260. So we talked about that earlier, but that's a pretty
That
significant
is pretty significant.
decrease.
Yes.
After report on the gifted and talented program, you see there 62 students identified for GT, grades 4 through 12, K through 3 continue to participate in whole group enrichment with talents or the K3 enrichment curriculum. 4th grade, they're identified students, they're served in a swipe, they come over to the middle school for their service. There are 5 of those students in 4th grade. 5th grade, there you see she has 6, 6th grade 9, 7th grade 7, 8th grade 5. They do it in a full out setting. High school is served through honors, AP, or concurrent courses. And you see there 6, 6, 8, and 10 are her numbers of high school students. So the GT program participates in Quiz Bowl and chess club. Lots of, it's enrichment. It's extra activities for those students. Miss Mushrush has sat here for 2.5 hours or more.
Yeah.
And there you see what we look at here is her December 1st counts each year. So that's what we report on our trend data up there. You see that from 2021 to 2022, the numbers were basically the same. You down there in bold at the bottom of the page, you see that our current count as of September of 2023 is 224. And then the thing that is most significant in that is that that's 224 out of 1,216 as opposed to 210 out of 1,400.
Right.
And that,
Increased your
while all of our other numbers have gone down, that number has increased. So the percentage of identified special needs children is significantly higher, even though the number is not that much higher. Ms. Mushrush, did you have anything you wanted? And Ms. Mushrush doesn't have anything she wants to say. Do you have any questions for Ms. Mushrush?
All these children have an IEP?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And case managers, you're watching the load of each case manager?
Folder holders and.
Okay.
Yes.
What's an example of a specific learning disability?
So that would be a gap between their cognitive level in reading or that in math, literacy, spelling. It's just a gap.
Okay.
They're not functioning where you expect them to based on their IQ score.
Age or?
It's their IQ score.
Okay, okay.
IQ score. Yeah, that's what I said. Just repeating it.
All right. Any other questions for Ms. Mushrush?
Pulled the 21-22 four-year graduation cohort as the state was 88% statewide.
Okay.
Thank you.
So of the students that you've already tested their IQ and they're included in the number, that how often are they retested to see if they? It's required every 3 years. Okay. So how many kids come off? There's really not a number. No, it varies greatly from year to year.
And so you don't test them every year? It's, once they're identified, they stay in that for 3 years?
Unless we feel like there's a need to change the programming, if we feel like they have closed the gap, then where they don't qualify, they don't qualify anymore.
And parents can request too, can't they?
Correct. Yeah, we dismiss some every year. I mean, that's the goal.
Yes, of course.
And we've had a significant number, and I can't tell you what the exact number is, but we've had a significant number move in over the course
It's over 30.
of the summer that we have as new to the district this year. Special needs.
What you see also, one thing we really haven't discussed greatly, but, one number that's not reflected in all the reporting is the number of individual students who transfer in and out of the district. You
Right.
have several of your students that transfer out and then transfer back in a 3-year window. Do you see movement, or most of the time, do your students just stay?
They pretty much stay. We had more come in than we had transfer out this year.
Any other questions for Ms. Mushrush?
Because the child counts for those 3 years are relatively consistent. And you've increased slightly to what, 224?
But an increase while the general pop has
It's
decreased.
Yes.
So, yeah, you do a great job. Thank you for what you do for this district.
Our mental health services, you see there, we have the providers are seeing, between our employees and the outside providers, they're seeing a total of 196 of our students for some sort of mental health services. And then you can see the percentages: elementary, 13.55% of the elementary, 18.87, 15.14 at the high school of the students are seeing a mental health provider. So for like the middle school, that special time in life.
I was gonna say, that's a normal,
Yeah.
That's, nearly 1 out of every 5 kids is seeing one of these mental health providers. And as you look down the column over there, up above that box where the individual grade levels, you see there that it gets up there pretty high in some instances. 8th grade, for instance, is sizable. And that is the last slide there. So now you can
All right,
adjourn
any other
this one.
questions on the district's report? All right, we will adjourn that meeting.
Thank you.
And
One more.
we have one more. We will call to order the FLSD Federal Programs Annual Report to the public.
And we've talked about so much of this because this is really when you talk about federal programs, you talk about the things you do to supplement everything else you do. So it's like with federal programs, I heard someone explain that federal programs was kind of like the sprinkles on the icing on the cupcake. Because you don't really have a cupcake unless you have icing, but you don't have to have sprinkles. And so the federal program is kind of like sprinkles in that it's just something extra. Kind of good stuff. So it's supplemental, and that's what we do with the federal programs. The state and the federal government provide us with dollars. And we take those dollars and then we figure out how we can best serve our student population with those dollars. And we're going to talk today about Title I, Title II, Title IV, Mr. Freeman's 21st Century Community Learning Center, and then those state categorical funds, the ESA, ELL, PD, and ELE. So to go through those there, we have our Title I allotment. You see there that we transferred in some funds from Title IIA to get it back up to pretty close to where it was last year. We're still down a little bit. In part, that's due to enrollment, because the numbers are based on enrollment. And it's also going to be tied to our census data, and you see that the 2021 census data is what impacted our allotment here for 23, 24, and you see that that's dropped by a couple of percentage points. So the dollars went down a little bit because we're getting fewer dollars because we have fewer kids. With those, so we transferred some of Title IIA in there because we upped it to 5 Title I teachers to provide in the school day supplemental instruction to our students who were not achieving. So we have 3 in the elementary and we have 2 in the middle school. We also do a little parental involvement. We have some homeless. fund we set aside, supplemental materials and supplies, and we have a private school student that we serve at St. John's. So that's Title I. Title IIA is in place. It's teacher quality supplemental professional development. You see there the allotment was a little lower than it was last year. The allotment for this year is $49,983.98. So we transferred some of that into Title I to cover our Title I expenses. It's very difficult to spend Title II dollars, and we'll have some carryover from last year that has not been credited to us in all of these federal funds, not the state, but in the federal. They, at some point in time this fall, they'll issue the carryover amounts. And until that point in time, we can't budget the carryover, even though we know it exists. But it's difficult to spend 2A because it's supplemental professional development, but you can't, used to you could send people places for training, and now they want it to be train the trainer training. So as opposed to sending a team to go and be trained, you now send one person to come back and train. So they've made it difficult to spend these dollars. So that's part of the reason why we're able to transfer the funds over. And once we get the carryovers in, you can use Title II funds the same way you use Title I if you transfer it, or you can use Title I the same way you use Title II.
What directly affects the difference then from year to year?
You know, it's enrollment
And so
and
it's still enrollment,
the poverty.
even though it's a teacher?
poverty.
Okay.
Percent of poverty.
Yeah.
So same thing, even though it's
Yeah.
a teacher fee? Okay.
Yeah, it's allocated per student.
Okay.
In fact, we had been receiving Title IV, which is rural and low-income school money, in last couple of years, and it's $40,000 or $50,000 a year. This year, no one in Garland County received rural and low-income school money, and it's just like every 5 years or so, you don't get that allotment. So it's just kind of random that you don't get it. You never know until the allotments come out that you're not going to get it. So then you have to figure out how to move anything you had tied to that to some other fund. But we do have Title VI, which this Title VI is, no, I'm sorry, this is Title IV. This is not Sarah's Title VI. This is Title IV. And it's student support and academic enrichment grant. And this can't be transferred, so you have to leave it in this category. It's supplemental, and you have to allocate it into basically one of these three categories, or a fourth one, which is educational technology. So we're allocating our funds into supplemental social and emotional learning, training materials, and then enhanced supplemental learning experiences. So that's, we'll do some things with like the learning through the arts, and we'll pay for those programs out of this fund. We'll, like out of this fund is where we pay for all the students in the elementary and middle school to have their Garland County Reads personal copy of the Garland County Reads book. So things like that is what we use the student support and academic enrichment grant for. Parental involvement, we have to report on that. We have parental advisory committees with parental facilitators in each building. There's a link here to the district and the building parental involvement plans that are posted on the website. Engagement Matters, Parent Toolkit, there's a link there. If you want to link on that at some point. And these reports will be linked on the website in the morning under the tab for annual reports to the public, which is on the state required list. There's some involvement opportunities there. There are always lots of things going on. I'm sorry, my fingers are just getting too giddy there. Mr. Freeman had his 21st Century Community Learning Center. Shared this slide with me. Mr. Freeman, do you have anything you want to?
Nothing really major. 2 points I would point out is the very bottom bullet. We did exceed our attendance goal last year, so the state gave us an additional $8,000 in funding. Also, it's not on the slide, but the state had a surplus in 21st Century funds this year, so they've given us they've allocated those to the existing programs. So our funding from this year, coupled with the $8,000 grant increase, is going to go from $150,000, which is what we were supposed to get, to we're actually going to get $208,000 this year.
Wow. Now, is this for FACES?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's amazing. That's,
And allows for us to, all children attend that want to attend for free.
yeah.
Is there any worry with just the fact that it's year 3 of a 5-year? I mean, when the last year, I mean, is it probably easily renewed or?
Well, we will apply.
So
This is our 3rd cycle.
I was gonna say, it's been a few, hasn't it? Yeah.
So this is actually, even though this is the 3rd year of our 3rd cycle, it's actually our 14th year of programming because they gave us an extra year because of COVID. So we're in our 14th year and we're planning on pursuing.
The outlook is that we'll be able to continue as is.
Nice.
All right. Then we shift over to state categorical funds. This is starts out with the enhanced student achievement money. There you see our allotment 23-24, $299,128. It's dropped by $63,696. That's $532 that we receive on every qualifying student, and that's based on free and reduced lunch application information. So that's where our decrease came last year. We are pretty hopeful in that we've seen a significant increase in the number applying and qualifying for free and reduced lunch. Will have an impact on this number and our federal dollars next year going forward. So we foresee that we'll see an increase in those funds based on that funding, which is part of the reason we tell people we need them to fill out the applications.
Is that every year?
Every year they have to fill it out.
So the ones they filled out this year
Won't hit us till next year.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's for next year, so. Yeah, I filled out like 3. Because I filled it out, then on every one of them other things they sent, you had to fill it out to really keep going.
So we use this, basically we have our 3 literacy, dyslexia, interventionists. We have 3 paraprofessionals that we pay out of this. We pay for a little halftime on Mr. Kolash out of this. And then we use some of it for instructional technology, supplemental professional development. English language learners, we do not get this allotment until the next year. So the 23-24 allotment won't come out until sometime in the spring. 874.84 was our allotment for this year. And we basically use that for training for teachers, supplemental materials. We use it for some of their little curriculum that they do, and then some interpretive services for parents and students. Professional development, $37.50 per student, and so that one went down by $432. We use that. We can use that for required professional development. We also pay the membership fee to Dawson out of that. ALE, down a little bit. It's based on the full-time equivalent enrollment from the preceding year. So it's down 26,000. The allotment 140,000 for this year. Actual cost for last year $185,447. And so we end up paying part of ALE out of local funds, but at the same time we are able to code some of our on-site students who are getting alternative instruction to ALE, which offsets that what it cost out of the school district's general fund to pay for it.
You had a dumb question, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so Title 2A says professional development, then there's a professional development.
Yeah, Title 2A is federal.
Okay.
Professional
I didn't remember you
development
saying that, I got you now, okay.
All right, and that is my last slide. Any other questions?
Did you have a comment, Mr. Freeman?
You good? Somebody
Yeah.
help me?
No, I just hiccuped. That is.
He hiccuped right when he asked about, if somebody had any questions. He said, somebody help
You ready to adjourn?
Yes. Yes, we are going to adjourn this meeting.
Oh.